every single person that I know in mainstream media saw that what they perceive as a progressive community then called me a Nazi. Then they go, okay, progressives
No one called you a
lunatics.
Nazi.
I'm writing all of them off.
Never once did that.
Are you 99% identical to the most extreme trans right activists, right? So we have a microscopic difference. So somebody asks me about it, I say it once, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. And then a giant...
No, Cenk, then stop giving fuel. Stop giving fuel to the fire. You are repeating the culture war talking points.
Hey, can we agree that all the others, like Lance or whatever the fuck their names are...
No.
Well, no.
All right, Cenk Uygur is here, ladies and gentlemen. It's a classic uncle nephew face off, as I have talked about already. For those of you who don't know, Cenk wrote a book. This is fucking hit me in the face. Cenk wrote a book called "Justice is Coming: How Progressives Are Going to Take Over the Country and America is Going to Love It." Which is, I mean, I'm a very cynical person. I don't think I'm a very pessimistic person. I don't think it's happening anytime soon, but maybe you'll make an argument for that. Yeah, we're going to talk about your book.
The book already won the debate.
Another thing that you literally didn't tell me while you were announcing it, which is that you're running for president. And of course, I'm going to ask you why.
Yeah, I was like, he hasn't
or
officially
even
announced.
how. But that's it. That's those are some of the things that we're going to be talking about. Before we get into any of that, though, let's start off with the Democrats actually doing something that is unheard of, unimaginable, which is showing backbone and showing a spine and actually doing the right thing, even though they were like kind of forced into a corner to do the right thing on Kevin McCarthy's ouster as Speaker of the House. What do you think about it?
Andrew Yang disagrees.
Look, I guess I love it. Not going to change anything. It's not going to make any difference. But I agree with you. I'm glad that the Democrats didn't gratuitously help them. So I talked to Representative Ro Khanna on Friday in D.C., and we came up with a good idea together, which is the Democrats, for whoever
That
it is,
his
that
children should keep doing
whatever it is you were going to say. No, that's not it.
Wait, you guys didn't have the good idea of making sure that his children were participating in the stock market and having excellent returns?
No.
Year over year? That's crazy.
So came up with the idea of, well, why don't we ask for something in return? So like paid family leave. So if any Republican wants Democratic votes in the House for speakership, yeah, maybe we could do that. Give us a couple of concessions. You don't get it without concessions, right? So we give you give us the concessions of a vote on paid family leave that polls at 84%, and maybe one other vote, right? And then okay, then we can have a deal. But if you just want a deal where we needlessly give you the speakership, why in the world would anybody do that?
I think the funniest part about that is that would never happen because Kevin McCarthy would have never done that. He would have probably lied maybe, but what's even better about the situation is that, like I was alluding to, he didn't even like go to the conservative Democrats and offer them anything. Like literally nothing was given. And then there are still, of course, perverts, both sidist perverts in liberal media that are trying to turn this massive fuck up within the Republican Party into somehow a issue that is the Democrats' responsibility, which is awesome. It's awesome. Some dude on the Daily Beast wrote an article talking about how, like, you know, this is actually a bad thing that the Democrats did. Once again, here it is. Matt Lewis, who is a conservative himself, said, You can't blame Dems for the blow that right-wing bomb throwers landed on Kevin McCarthy. But what you can say is that they failed to do the right thing on behalf of the American people, which was to make sure that Kevin McCarthy remains the Speaker of the House.
Yeah. So look, I know Matt a little bit. We used to go on MSNBC together. I went on his podcast recently. He's a good guy. But generally speaking, he's from the old school of establishment, bipartisan, uniparty thought, which is the way that this would have gone in the old days is the Matt Gaetz character would have huffed and puffed, and McCarthy would have said, oh, no way, right? And then at some point, whether it was the Republicans inside their caucus or they go to the Democrats and they get a deal, The deal is what it was always going to be, which was cut spending for the average American, maybe throw in a tax cut for the rich or a deregulation or something. It's all theater. It's all fake. Now, here comes a twist. The twist in the story is that the crazy right-wing Republicans like Matt Gaetz are actually not doing theater. I mean, it looks like they're doing theater and they're doing their own theater to raise money, etc. But they're not playing the same old game. This is like, and that's part of why the media and the establishment is so mad, because they're like, wait, you guys are supposed to pretend to object, but not actually object. And we're supposed to cut spending for the average guy. That's why guys like Matt go, I don't get it, man. The Democrats are part of this play, good cop, bad cop. And the good cops are supposed to come in at the end and screw over the American people while pretending to be good guys. And so since the Democrats didn't do it and Gaetz didn't do it, they didn't get a deal. And so I don't think it's so bad at all. Like, number one, they weren't doing anything anyway.
Yeah.
Right? And number two, actually somebody threw a curveball into this normal, sick theater.
I like to always say, what would the Republicans do if roles were reversed? And if anybody in here thinks that they would have dove on a grenade to save the Democratic Party or the institutions to make
instead
sure
of watch them
Nancy
infight,
Pelosi would have retained her speakership position, you're fucking out of your mind. So yeah, Democrats did exactly what the Republicans would have done in the situation, which is of course always good politics. Okay, it might not yield good policy, but it was certainly good politics. Now, of course, the other side of this is that there was no opportunity for good policy anyway. People are immediately rushing to conclusions that Kevin McCarthy would have been a more moderate speaker than whatever kind of demon they put forward, certainly. But functionally, Kevin McCarthy, as the Speaker of the House, was going to operate like the most reactionary person in the party. And he did.
And he also does what Matt Gaetz wants.
It's not like he gave a bone to the Democrats in his chaotic order.
They tried to impeach Biden right before this.
They fucking lodged an impeachment inquiry with zero evidence that connected Hunter Biden to Joe Biden. Zero. Okay? Zero. That's insane. That's so insane. And
just having watched a couple of these, I want to say that I think this is the only program I've ever seen Cenk on when he's on Hasan's program and they're having their friendly family debates where he looks a little nervous because he's always such a commanding presence on all the other shows he goes on, right?
It's a rhetorical tactic. This little trick where they say the Biden family. Have you noticed that? Where they, instead of saying Hunter Biden, they always say the Biden family, we're doing crimes, as though because technically it's not wrong. Hunter Biden is a part of the Biden family.
Yeah, it reminds me of the trick that Dick Cheney did to get us into the Iraq War. When he was asked on Meet the Press, wait, did Iraq attack us on 9/11? He said, the fighters come from the same general region as Iraq.
I agree.
And that means, they didn't attack us, and you're just making it up. You're saying, what difference does it make? They're all Arabs.
Yeah. So we talked about that. You think the Democrats have a little bit of spine? Not that it fucking matters in this situation anyway. So why do you think the progressives are going to win? What's going on in this book? You wrote a book, finally. You've been writing it for a while.
Yeah. So look, first I explain all the depressing stuff, so you're not going to be surprised by that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I explain why, even though progressives are 2/3 of the country, and there's no argument about that, we don't win. I explain exactly
what he means by that is
money,
progressive
media are the
values,
two giant factors.
when phrased
And
correctly, a lot of Americans will support. Not that they identify as progressives.
The Republican Party. But then Kirkus Reviews and everybody else says it's a super hopeful book because in chapter 6 I explain how we're going to win. And the answer is actually really easy, Haas, which is young people are super progressive.
Oh.
And so the polling is overwhelming. The Republican pollster Frank Luntz's his toupee's on fire.
Friend of the show, Frank Luntz.
Yeah. Noam Chomsky agrees. You look at any of the data, under 45 in 2020 voted massively progressive. Now this time around, it'll be under 49. By the time you get to 2028, it's good night, Irene. It's under 54-year-olds and they're done.
I think this is I think this is wrong. I will say. This is the classic trope that time and time again the next generation will say was trope. If with one
That's
exception.
just not true.
With one exception. Okay? The material realities for the upcoming generation, my generation, is significantly more dire.
That's right.
And therefore, they will vote along the lines if they are still participating in the democratic process at that point. If they haven't fully checked out, they might end up like having a much poorer country overall and having less economic prospects overall will yield understandable results and will yield the same voting patterns. I do not think that it's more so a generation being progressive, but instead a generation not having access to additional economic opportunities that prior generations had. Because you see it time and time again when people have more assets, when people have more capital, they start voting in predictable patterns. They start voting for deregulation because they understand that like this is intrinsically aligned with their interests. Oh my God, Kaya is so good at opening that door now. It's crazy. I had put her outside and she literally opened the door immediately and ran in here. That's nuts.
Okay,
That's so cute.
Let me break that down for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So number one, the trope is actually
I
not
got close. I got close the door. You keep going.
Trope is not intergenerational. It's about demographics overall, right? So people say, "Oh, that's okay. The Democrats are going to win because they're going to get black voters, they're going to get Latino voters," and that's not at all guaranteed. So I never believed in that, and the identity politics generally doesn't work. But the idea that hey, it's okay, the next generation never saves us isn't true. And everybody always says, "Oh, well,
clean up your room."
We are
kiss and joke.
going to
Thank you.
Get more conservative as we
good
get
mistake.
older." Well, I quote in the book meta studies that show that's not at all true. In fact, your political leanings get set between the ages of 14 and 24.
So there is that recent study that shows that both millennials and obviously Generation Z are bucking the trends incredibly. The ones typically about people becoming either more conservative later in life. But there's something to be said about what Hasan just brought up in that, like, millennials and Gen Zers are dealing with a very, very different economic situation than their parents and than their grandparents did. One in which now it's becoming more and more impossible for anyone to fathom owning a home, let alone like moving out of your parents' place.
As conservative when they were younger, okay? But above 85 was super liberal. And the reason for that is because they grew up with like FDR, LBJ, JFK, some range of that, right? And those guys stayed progressive their whole lives.
I know, but there's like also at that point, how many fucking 85-year-olds exist? You know what I mean? I feel like that.
No, that's not.
That yields
it's not
a
about
lot of.
Like right now, those guys are 97, right? That's not the
There's
issue.
like 8 of them.
No. The issue is that it's totally bullshit that people become more conservative as they get older. It's not at all true, and it's not backed up by the data. And this generation,
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the only thing that I would agree with on that data point is that it is totally, entirely pegged to their economic circumstances.
And the economic circumstances of the younger generation is very, very unfortunately are fucked.
Yeah, no. That's why I'm saying like that is ostensibly the only reason that I think the younger generations, as they get older and are devoid of the same opportunities that prior older generations had, because like a lot of the current wealth that we have in this country is trapped in like baby boomers and Gen Xers. Like they are like the last remaining generation with access to any kind of assets, homes, things of that nature. You're coming to a situation where you have like permanent renters that will never be able to purchase a home.
So part of the reason
that changes their dynamic, that changes their
100%.
Political perspective.
And this is all going towards exactly my point, which is, look, part of the reason that the younger generations, are both millennials and Gen Z, are so progressive is cultural factors, right? But the other reason is economic factors that nobody ever talks about. They have no chance of buying a home for the great majority of those generations, right? Everything for them is much harder. Student debt is infinitely higher. They're much more tied to corporate rule and have become chattel in a lot of ways, and they're rebelling against that. Besides which, this isn't arguable. They would have to change the dynamic of those generations massively over the next 1 to 5 years for the Republicans to be able to win, right? So, because in the 2020 elections, even the states within the Democratic Party that Bernie lost, he would win under 45-year-olds with 40, 50-point margins, even after the race was largely over. So, like, the handwriting's on the wall. And by the way, what saved the Democrats in the 2022 midterms? Younger voters. What saved Joe Biden in 2020? 11% more younger voters showed up. That's the only reason he won. And so this is all trending, not just towards Democrats.
Not just younger people, I think.
But towards progressives.
I don't think it's just younger people. I think it's also...
Depends on the voting district.
It was white people in general. Like there are more white people now voting for Joe Biden than they did before with Hillary Clinton.
Look, there's a lot of different demographics.
That's a huge demographic shift.
I know, but those things shift. They go back and forth, and now all of a sudden Trump's up to 42% with Latinos. He's up to 20% with African Americans. So I'm not relying on that 1%. But I have not seen anything that challenges the numbers.
I don't think the 20% number is real, but you know.
Yeah, no, it might be an outlier. It might not be exactly right. But the bottom line is, I've never seen a compelling case for demographics saving the Democrats or progressives other than age. And age is the biggest demographic and the biggest difference maker. And so there's other factors too, changing media.
So how are you going to activate younger voters to go out and vote? Because out of the voter eligible population, younger voters are poorer.
Well, yeah,
on
that's
average,
why I'm saying it depends on the region. Like right now, if you look at the stats in Canada, right now I believe over half of men are polling that they're going to vote conservative. The trend is not the same for women, but men are moving very, very quickly in Canada towards saying that they vote for conservatives. And in Canada, the Conservative Party is polled to have a majority right now. That's a horrifying trend that has to be looked at.
Is the reason why he didn't win in the primaries. That was a big part of the problem.
So I hear you. Those are generally problems.
Men or white men, it didn't break it down that way.
It's not that
Bernie I'm going to assume white men
first of all, Bernie
overwhelmingly,
Sanders won the first 3 states, as we all know, right? And what happened then is mainstream media activated the older voters to vote in droves against Bernie, right? So normally after you win the first state, let alone the first 3 states, you get a significant amount of positive coverage, and I have the numbers and the data in the book. But of course, Bernie got like 3 times the negative coverage.
Okay. We're saying the same thing. Right. You're just saying
no. But my point is, at that point, even with mainstream media just blasting Bernie, talking about executions in Central Park and giving Biden enormous positive coverage, etc., Obama rallying everyone, Buttigieg, etc. Still, if it was 4 years later, Biden would have lost to Bernie because of the age demographics. Just couldn't do it with 45-year-old and under enough. Like if it was like 49-year-olds and under, Bernie almost certainly would have won. So, and here we are 4 years later. So, look, is it written in stone? Of course not. But is it as dire as people think? Not even close. I think we're definitely the favorites, not the underdogs. And Haas, here's another giant factor. Media. So we all know mainstream media hates progressives and destroys us at every turn, right? And so they activate the older voters, etc. But now they're losing their power. But here's a really important fact that people don't absorb enough. Now, for most of the television networks, their costs are higher than their revenue. Are they really going to be able to last 5 more years of bleeding out? So at some point, this doesn't just wither away, it capsizes. Right. Meanwhile, what's happened? TYT's happened. You've happened. Tons of like new streamers progress, and almost all.
Yeah, but you also have to acknowledge, so have conservatives. Like a lot of the top YouTube channels are in politics are right wing. Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, Russell Brand, Jordan Peterson. They're all monster fucking channels. Even if some of them have migrated to Rumble, they're still huge.
But they're popular in the same exact material reasons as to why.
And they have a lot of them do
CNN,
have financial backing.
Cuts corporate propaganda. MSNBC cuts corporate propaganda, and Fox News is the most popular news broadcast. They have moneyed interests backing them, whereas like real progressive content has to revolve around, or if they want to be sustainable, heavily rely on like subscriptions, and that is incredibly difficult. There's nothing as good as just like having unlimited wads of money from concentrated wealth that will give you a couple billion here, a couple billion there. And that is precisely the reason why Daily Wire is fucking, taking our lunch money all day, every fucking day. Think about it this way, the Steven Crowder $50 million conversation. I would say, not to toot my own horn here, but probably more popular a figure overall than Steven Crowder. There is no $50 million deal coming my way. That is unimaginable. That would never happen in a million years, because Steven Crowder doesn't have to generate $50 million in revenue. He just has to keep saying the...
Happy to see Vosh raid the show. Oh, thanks, Vosh. Hey, appreciate it. Welcome in, Raiders. We're in the middle of watching the Hasan versus Cenk debate. Family member versus family member. Who will come out on top and who will come? We will see. The topic right now is basically about progressives. Are progressives going to win? Do progressives have positions of power? All that kind of stuff. And yeah, give a follow back. Twitch.tv/Vosh
Here.
Thank you.
Daily Wire can kiss my ass. All the right-wingers combined can kiss my ass. And so the good news is I'm not just a good host. We have a lot of great hosts on TYT. I'm a really good businessman. And so I have maintained us in business for 21 years in an impossible industry. We built a network of progressives, and we just keep on winning. So they're not going to be able to get rid of us. We're going to win, and then when we get more resources, we're going to dominate even more. So the problem, the advantage that the right wing has is infinite money, and the left has almost no money at all, right? But the disadvantage that the right wing has is that they're not popular. We say things that are popular, and people like what we're saying because it's in favor of them, right? The right wing has garbage that says, "Oh, rich people are great."
He's only right if it's phrased in a certain way. Like, obviously Bernie Sanders can really resonate with independents when he frames everything in a way that obviously resonates with everyday people. That was one of his many gifts, right? That's why that's why his movement grew so rapidly, because just even, non-voters can listen to that idea, like the 1% versus the 99%. They're taking everything from you. This is why you don't have, all these programs. I want to instill free public education, free public healthcare, things that other countries have done successful, like Scandinavian countries, for example. That everyday people, when they hear it, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to argue that. Why? That sounds great. But the right is going to, on the other end, just constantly be like, culture war, trans kids, culture war, CRT, all that shit all day, every single day. And then when they watch lefties who are criticizing them or talking about that stuff, they're like, oh, that's why you're trying to put woke indoctrination and CRT in schools. We hear you.
Like, he doesn't hide that. They changed the narrative around from, instead of talking about like how life begins at conception is a Christian talking point, and therefore you have to abide by it because America's a Christian nation, they move towards how this is actually a moral argument. This is the scientific argument.
Money, but
like this kind.
Thank you so much, Dino Ghoul, for the $5 dono. Very, very generous of you. Appreciate it.
Propagandizing and the mechanism that backs it is all too powerful because...
Oh, and if you're new here, you can go to the serfs.tv and you can join on the on-screen chat. That's where all the stuff is, and all the emotes are over there for the funs and the sillies.
More successful than both of us combined. I'm sorry. That is just the reality.
No, not in terms of views. In terms of money...
I don't
have more
think
money.
so. I think that.
Oh no! In terms of views, the right, absolutely.
Views a year.
Hasan is 100% right.
I don't know.
Here,
I don't know
100%
what metrics
right.
you're working with when you say 5 billion views a year. I don't know if you're just simply talking about YouTube.
Facebook,
Yeah,
Roku,
you're talking about
Pluto,
YouTube, Facebook,
Snap. You name it.
That's great. If Daily Wire is on all of those platforms, with the exception of Snap, I think probably I would assume that they're not on Snapchat.
On Facebook, fucking conservative channels absolutely dominate. Look at the top 10 lists over and over and over. They're usually like 90% conservative channels. If you look at the viewership for channels people haven't even heard of, Salty C Word. Have you heard of Salty C Word? I bet you haven't. And he has a monster channel. I think he's almost at 1 million subscribers on YouTube. It's far right shit. Far right. Like, he does segments on laughing at when left wing protesters get killed by cars. That's That's how extreme he is, and he gets fucking massive viewership. I haven't even started talking about the pop culture channels, the Quarterings, fucking Nerdotic, all of them. There is a massive online independent right to far right media apparatus. Hasan is 100% correct here. You cannot say conclusively, like Cenk is trying to, that the left and progressives dominate online spaces.
Democrats.
There's only one Hasan,
like Michael.
There's only one person who has like 30,000 viewers every day.
There was no other option.
Tim Pool gets 50,000 viewers every stream. Sometimes 100,000 if Alex Jones is on.
We could talk about that if you want, but all Republican politicians and all Republican media figures are liars. Okay, they have to lie because they can't say, "Hey, I want you to take all your money and give it to the rich." That's their actual objective, and they can't ever say that. And then you could say it about 100 different things. They can't say, "Hey, I want you to smoke cigarettes and get cancer because they pay me. Hey, I want you to take guns and shoot yourselves because the gun manufacturers pay me. I want you to destroy the planet because ExxonMobil pays me." They're never going to say any of that. So it's one lie after another, and we call them talking points. But these days, even if you were right and
Hambly, Yamberg, that's where the money funding comes in.
It doesn't matter, because what matters is that
I've never seen an ad on YouTube for Hasan Piker. You see PragerU ads, Steven Crowder ads, fucking Tim Pool ads all the fucking time.
Some of their old talking points sound so dumb and asinine. And so when they try their things about like, oh, trickle down economics. When I was growing up, the media actually brainwashed people into thinking trickle-down economics was real.
Yeah, same. Okay.
And now we've destroyed that. Anyone who says trickle-down economics is considered a total joke.
We didn't destroy that. I don't think that
trickle-down economics did.
Objective reality and the lack
voodoo
of that
economics
promise destroyed it significantly more than
objective reality was always against it, Haas. It wasn't even close.
I know, but people started people after 30, 40 years of neoliberal austerity recognize now that that is complete bullshit. Now it doesn't matter because people still do the same thing. They move as soon as the established narrative, the norms that people recognize are at odds with whatever the media is saying, or are at odds with what right-wing moneyed interests are trying to pump, then ultimately they move on to the next thing. I am in agreement with what you're saying, but ultimately, the market collapse in 2008 probably did significantly more for people to understand that trickle down economics was bullshit from the jump than anything else. That played a major role in people losing confidence in a lot of economists and what they were saying, which they should lose confidence in because these guys are they're spreading poison. But
let me give you one example of the power of an alternate voice. And this is a very ironic example. So Iraq war was always bullshit. It was always obvious. Mainstream media didn't say it. They said, "Oh yeah, weapons of mass destruction," and they attacked from the general same region as Iraq, etc. Right? So 70% of Americans, when we attacked Iraq, thought that Saddam Hussein had personally attacked us on 9/11. Right? So they mass lied, mass hypnosis, etc. So no matter how much we were right, we couldn't break through. And then that lasts for forever until Donald Trump goes, Iraq war was bullshit. And all of a sudden the dam breaks. And then the Republicans go, oh yeah.
No, I disagree with that as well.
No,
I think
before
you and
that,
I have,
if not a single Republican said the Iraq war was bullshit.
You and I,
until
it
Trump
doesn't matter
said
what Republicans say. You and I are at fundamental odds and will forever be at fundamental odds in the way that we analyze the world, because I am a believer that the material conditions and things withering away, larger structural moves in either direction, are significantly more important in bludgeoning people with reality than the media moving
Which is why so much of right-wing media and right-wing commentators have to pounce on this and talk about it constantly. That's why you get the Tucker Carlson suddenly being populist and Glenn Greenwald's being like, oh, well, he's a socialist. No, he's fucking not. But that's why, because they got to run cover for all of this shit. When, like, life before you, you're just like, holy fuck, everything is getting harder and harder. I can't afford anything. Rent is going up. I'm never going to be able to afford a house. The cost of housing is outrageous. What is causing all this? You need the Tucker Carlsons of the world to tell you, well, it's immigrants. It's the immigrants coming into the country. They're stealing all the homes and the jobs, and they're taking all your welfare. They're filling themselves with FUD rounds. It's immigrants. And also, it's trans kids. Trans kids are filling up your schools. Yes, and then they're indoctrinating everyone because of all this woke ideology from the woke mind virus coming down from on high from all these Marxist institutions. That's what's causing all the problems in your life. And it's like, well, so that caused inflation? It was trans kids that are doing inflation? Is that how inflation works? I don't know a lot about the economy, but you keep saying these things over and over and over, and then it's repeated by every fucking other like talking head that is a right-winger NPC network, and they all keep saying the same shit over and over and over. Then yeah, people start to get false consciousness. They get distracted from the actual material conditions of their lives, and they start looking to that shit, being like, oh, okay, so that's who it is. That's what it is.
The realities are different. So we've got every single thing lining up for us. Younger voters, the destruction of mainstream media, rise of
woke mind virus calls climate change.
Also
it's true.
Objective reality. So, for example, why
by
did
the way, good to
FDR
see you, Spectacular Scheidemann.
Incredibly progressive things.
Hope
Why
you're
did
well.
LBJ, at least on social issues, do incredibly progressive things? Because
the economic realities, one, demanded it, and two, there was more pushback from outside groups at the time. There was more militant labor, and people were recognizing the writing on the wall about America's
Republicans voted against Iraq War. Was it Ron
circumstance.
Paul?
It's exactly right. And what's the situation we're in now? Almost exactly the same thing. Now we need to build a labor movement. We need to build more direct action.
I agree. That's why I do what I do. I think a lot of people don't understand that. The only place that I have any sort of optimism for the future is in the labor movement, which is why I do what I do. I want to change people's minds about certain
unions
things
are sexy. Worker
and
co-ops
allow
are
them
sexy.
to see for themselves the autonomy that they can have and change their immediate workplaces somewhere that they spend 80% of their adult lives in, and therefore set up the groundwork for a mechanism of pushback against
it's a hot labor summer.
the
or I guess now it's a hot labor fall.
And force the Democratic Party's hand to do
Hey, it
the
was
right
right on Ron
thing
Paul.
when it's a necessity to do so.
And look, all smart progressives are going in the same exact direction, right?
Yeah.
So
I've been on that direction.
So 6 Republicans voted against the Iraq
labor
War.
movement. Totally believes that's the answer. Nina Turner, who's
126
another host on our
Democrats
network,
voted against it.
just announced today that she set up a new group with Chris Smalls.
Nina Turner's new
back the
group looks
labor
awesome.
movement, and to even get funding for the labor movement whenever they go on strike, etc. And so that's what pushed FDR. That's what's going to push the next generation. Because Haas, the economic situation isn't going to fix itself. Like, you know, the old line of
communists and socialists after the Great Depression
without a demand,
asking for austerity measures or what pushed FDR.
And right now, since the economic situation is so bad for workers,
no one would have been entertaining ideas like Keynesian economics back then.
More demands.
It's not just that either. It's all it's also there is actually a real tight labor market,
union
and not
members,
a tight labor market with like. You're right, though. The confidence is different because we've already had tight labor market periods where income has not increased in the way that it's supposed to. Real income, real wages have not increased in the way that it's supposed to. And even economists are baffled by this reality. Well, the reason for that was because
appreciate it.
Labor had lost and capital had won that war. Whereas totally now, in a post-COVID world, I think with the unimaginable amount of profits that these corporations are raking in, labor has a decent bargaining position because they saw that, you know, if people just simply didn't go back to work, that people were fucked.
Yeah. So look, they took and they took and they took and they took too much. And so this is how we get to balance. We push back. So we're in the middle of pushing back. And so everything is trending in our direction. The only thing is we can't, you know, snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, and there's two icebergs ahead, and so I'm not Pollyannish. I see the icebergs probably better than anybody else does, and I'm really worried about it. Okay, one is the progressive movement, honestly, and this is where you and I can begin to disagree, getting too radical and too away
Oh,
from what
no.
most
Here we go.
Americans want. And the
we
second
go.
iceberg,
What do you mean by that?
yeah. So look, saying things like all sports leagues, including professional ones, has to allow trans women. They don't have a choice, etc. That polls at like 2%. You say, hey, it's a moral issue. It's really important.
Do you think it's
sports leagues are like the most important thing in the whole wide world?
Do you think it's actually a significant issue? Do you think that is a...
Which fucking Democrats are making that the key point of their platform? Name me one Democrat who's like, okay, so yeah, here's what I offer. I want to talk about sports exclusively.
About this. Stop talking about this immediately.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what the right wing does. They weaponize every single issue. What I'm trying to get progressives to do is stop falling in the trap. So the minute they say it, our side comes out and goes, no, this is the most important issue. And anyone who disagrees is a Nazi. You just called 98% of the country Nazis.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Even
You're
elected trans
alienating
officials
voters like crazy.
aren't talking about that 24/7.
Do you think
Right-wingers
that
are
organizers
pretending
on the
that the
ground,
left
both
are.
trans and cis, that are or members of labor unions are even using this as a talking point in any meaningful capacity? Or is it simply reactionary Republicans bringing this up because they tried and unsuccessfully failed to push the anti-trans button with bathroom bills?
Except for the fact that they passed all those bills, which I despise. I hate those bills.
Let me just clarify something here.
Slow down.
In the lead up to the 2016 election, you had the North Carolina bathroom bill that was anti-trans, right? You have to have the gender assigned at birth be the bathroom that you go to.
That totally failed.
Okay,
That's right.
that failed. That was so objectively a failure that Donald Trump came out and said, I don't give a fuck where Caitlyn Jenner shits as long as she's shitting in Trump Tower, right? Something along those lines.
But
I'm
then
paraphrasing.
he tried to ban them from the military.
Hold on. Let me finish.
That was also unpopular. Sorry, go ahead.
Let me finish. Okay? Yeah, he tried to ban trans people from the military. That was also unpopular. So, what did Republican interest groups do? The family, moral family, Christianity fundamentalist groups. What did they do? They went back to the drawing board and they looked for a reasonable sidestep that would still be anti-trans, that would open the door to anti-trans conversations that they could push for that was more popular. What did they find? They found that Americans love the concept that is bullshit. Meritocracy. What is the most meritocratic process in the entire country, maybe in the world? Sports. Americans love sports, and Americans believe that meritocracy is real, and it's especially real in sports. So they changed the narrative away from trans people can't pee and poo in the fucking bathrooms to trans people want to destroy sports. It was simply just another way to attack trans people, which is precisely why I think a lot of people correctly looked at that and went, why the fuck are we talking about this? This is ultimately marginal. You just want to fucking eliminate trans people from public spaces. And I have never given an ounce of legitimacy to that argument, despite what public polling says, because the reality is no one gives a fuck about it. Let me tell you something that's more important than public polling, however, because you brought up...
So far, I don't even see where we disagree.
Okay, so you brought up state legislatures, Republicans like passing incredibly, horrifyingly
right-wingers are doing that in red
psychotic
states.
anti-trans bills.
Yeah.
Okay? And they're passing this. Yet there is no viable single-issue voter out there that is like desiring these anti-trans bills. Although... if you ask, Americans directly about, like, what do you think about a 14-year-old trans girl, like, participating in a swim meet, they might say 56% might say, fuck that, that's wrong, we shouldn't do that. But the reality is there isn't any real momentum on the ground for anti-trans shit, okay? Voters do not give a fuck about trans people overall.
Exit polls don't
the overwhelming
show that
majority
to be
of
primary
voters actually have
concern in any
apathy for
exit
trans
polls.
people. They just don't care about it because they think that there's no trans people in their lives whatsoever. Republicans, however, have kept on pushing the anti-trans button over and over again and made it their major fucking talking point.
Not progressives.
That has yielded horrifyingly bad results for them.
In response to that, if a progressive is like, I actually believe in civil rights for everybody, That's very different than being like, hey, so the key voting platform that I am now as a politician running on is about trans women, specifically in sports. That's the key part of my entire fucking political career.
Supposed to happen. That was a major failure on their part, one that actually has led to Kevin McCarthy's ouster as the speaker right now, a domino effect of like the Republican Party imploding in and of itself, partially because the only thing that they have been looking for, the only thing that they have, the only tangible policy position is just increasing the dial of transphobia, but there's not enough people on the ground who are demanding it. And those who are demanding it are increasingly more psychopathic, which is pushing away normal fucking Republican voters who are just like, I just want tax cuts, man. Like, I'm racist, sure, but like, the fuck's going on? Like, I don't give a shit about this. Like, why are you talking about dismembering children's genitals all the fucking time? You sound like a psycho. They're getting outrage fatigue, and it has demonstrably been a failure. And that's part of the reason why you don't see Trump talking too much about wokeness or trans people. He like brings it up every now and then in his commentary, but it is far less than Ron DeSantis, wouldn't you say, who is an objectively less popular candidate.
Yeah. So with the exception of Trump and DeSantis thing, which we can get into, I actually agree with everything you said. So now let me give
then
it
why
to
do you
from
bring
my
it up as a
perspective and why I'm
problem?
concerned about it. So number one, Republicans bring this up because they're fishing and fishing. All their positions are deeply unpopular. So they're fishing for one position that they could finally get some sort of popularity on, right? So they dig all the way down to trans sports at the high school level, and they get over 70% saying, okay, no, meritocracy, we shouldn't do that, right? So if at that point, you and I agree, like, we fight back when they propose a bill, and we do the best we can, and we aggressively make the case that you just made and that I make all the time on the air, right? And then we're okay with it, and everybody would agree. The country is in favor of trans rights, okay? So, but in the midst of these conversations, one of the things that happens is, okay, on air, I say, okay, you're asking, fine. I think at the high school level, trans girls should be able to participate with biological girls. Because
why do you talk about that at all beyond how?
Because it comes up. Because there's a bill.
No,
I'm fighting against the bill.
Okay, but why do you talk
why is it
about
a problem
it
on the left?
It being a distraction, perfectly cooked up? Because you said you agree with me. Why do you talk about it beyond it being a fucking bill that is laughably unpopular, so unpopular that like incredible.
It's not so unpopular that it didn't pass in all the red states.
Wait, what?
The trans bills that passed, not about bathrooms, but about sports and all that horse crap.
But none of those bills were passed with popular support, Cenk.
I know they're passed by Republican legislators, and the Republican legislators are appeasing their base.
Okay,
so their base is maniacal, and their base wants it.
No,
what does this have to do with progressives then?
You and I are entirely incorrect.
So they go fishing in that area, and in that conversation, I say, hold on, let me finish.
Okay.
I say, at some point, look, my real opinion is, at the professional level, yes, of course the leagues get to make their own decision, and sometimes, yes, trans women have an advantage, and the league is allowed to say, no, we're not going to allow it, okay? So what happens next? Every single person that I know in mainstream media saw that what they perceive as a progressive community then called me a Nazi. Then they go, okay, progressives are
No one called you a
lunatics.
Nazi.
I'm writing all of them off.
Never once did that.
Are you kidding me? Because somebody
And by the way,
this
no.
microscopic
No, it's because you 180'd on a position that you had like 6 months ago on TYT about the idea of using inclusive language. That's why everyone called you in and out. That was the entirety of that topic. And it wasn't just like, oh, they're Nazis. Yeah, write them off. Fucking Nazis. No, it was like, hey, by the way, everyone came from a place of fucking love and respect, by the way, being like, please stop regurgitating points that are only beneficial to the right. No one is demanding that all women be called birthing persons. No one's saying that. It's in addition to. You know that because like months ago, you guys had the same point. That's why everyone got mad.
larger
They have
that
material-
also cost us, and it makes it look like we are extreme when in reality 2/3 of the country's on our side. Take the fucking win. Take the win. So here's
those
another
aren't
one, and this one I don't know
points.
how you're going to
They-
line up on this one.
no, this is
Defund the
important.
police.
No,
It's
no,
a
no,
terrible
stop.
slogan.
Okay.
It's
Stop.
terrible.
No,
we're
change the
moving
topic.
away- We're moving away from other talking points. Let's get back to the one issue that we were talking about. My perspective is that they have every interest to fuck you every single time. Mainstream media does, because of
Don't
their
play into their trap.
underlying
That's what you
material
did.
interest in defending the corporate oligopoly structure that we have. This is who funds them. This is how people rise into positions of power in the media infrastructure. You've been a part of this already personally. You've seen it happen to you at MSNBC. So like, there is no reason why they're not looking at like magical trans people on Twitter and going, oh, that's it. Here's the reality. They're being crazy again. They're calling Cenk a Nazi.
Yes,
Those-
they are. And
the
they're
me-
looking for any excuse. I agree with that. But then stop giving them excuses, which is the point you started.
Stop playing the
Okay.
victim.
There's a major disagreement here. We are at odds, and
But we're not at odds. You say don't talk about it. I say don't talk about it. We say you say you're against the bill. I say I'm against the bill. You're for trans rights. I'm for trans rights. But my
You're
point
for
is,
trans
the difference
rights,
is
comma,
the same people
with
that
like
called
asterisks,
you
with
transphobic also called me
with-
transphobic all
with
the
terms.
fucking time. The difference is I don't change my perspective at the end of the day,
I don't change my
or
perspective.
even
You're
or
for
even
conditional
offer
trans
it
rights.
any fucking additional light, because who fucking cares?
That's not for.
You
That's
just
not
do
equality.
what
That's
you
less
think is right,
oppression.
and you keep pushing. And I think that it's very dangerous and very scary when you get moved by your base of support that you have worked tirelessly for 20 years and like building and solidifying, turning on you and saying you're right wing now. I think that is
didn't happen though. I agree with you. It's 11 people on Twitter, so our audience is just as gigantic as it's always been. So you can go ahead and cry about it if you're among those 11 people. So I'm not worried about that. Haas, I gave it as a small example, and defund the police is a much larger example.
Okay,
of
we'll
how
get
the
to that in a second.
progressives are getting pigeonholed by mainstream media and Republicans as radicals, when in reality we are the overwhelming majority of the country. So we need to focus and get our
saying that.
I agree.
messaging right.
And that's why looking at a couple random people and greatly emphasizing the impact that they have, and even attributing like the mainstream media's perspective shift on progressives, when you and I both know that they never fucking gave a shit, and they don't even need like a couple of random trans people to call you a transphobe to like justify their hatred for progressives.
Okay, let's go to a larger
There's no
issue.
reason to talk about that. Now, as far as like there was one other point that I wanted to make, because we were talking about state legislatures. This is really important, please. I think that a broader Republican project, and I think you'll agree with me on this, has been that they want to dismantle the power of the legislative body and then utilize the state legislatures where they know they have control, do the gerrymandering and ridiculous district maps, where they can, even if they don't have popular support, even if they lose the majority of the votes, still maintain a majority in the House and the Senate, right? State House and state Senate.
It's one of the most important things in the country.
Absolutely. And then there's a secondary side to this, though, because there is the judiciary. So they've also they've dismantled the legislative body. They have pushed their power in undemocratic ways through the state legislatures, and then also solidified that power and codified it by court packing, right? So they have this very open project within the Federalist Society, all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States, where they have hyper-reactionary judges that they've placed in positions of power through appointments, right? So when you do that, there is no need for a democratic process, which is precisely the reason why saying that these Republicans are actually acting out the desires of their psychotic, bloodthirsty base when they're pushing for, trans bills that are getting passed in every single state legislature is objectively false.
Yes.
Why is it objectively false? Because one, Republicans have never cared about their base. Let's be fucking real. They just use the culture war issues as a way to like draw up support.
Yes.
But in reality, they
just
don't really
cute
give a
girl
shit about
art.
what the base wants.
Just cute
If
girls
they
art. Thank you
did,
very much for the prime.
then
I appreciate
they
that.
would have never in a million years allowed the Roe v. Wade decision to be overturned, because that was a much better way to just keep dangling in front of the most active base of support they have, white evangelical Protestants, and never actually
his own's been on fire.
never actually push to actively dismantle Roe v. Wade and completely criminalize abortion in red states. That's why they have a major fuck up right now, because they're suffering from their own success. So I don't think that pointing to state legislatures and bills that they've passed to say, no, there is actually a decent amount of support for anti-trans legislation from the Republican base of support is correct, especially when all signs point to the opposite. At the national party level, the Republican Party is currently going through a crisis, an identity crisis. They have capitulated to incredibly bloodthirsty, psychotic
Christian
fucking
nationalists,
culture warriors for so long that they end up leading like Ron DeSantis.
Look at Sarah Huckabee
pushing
Sanders.
for
What has she passed?
objectively unpopular bills,
Canceling wokeness.
okay, by utilizing
banning
the state
CRT,
legislatures, and then suffering the consequences on the perception in the national party.
Yeah. So look,
allowing
again,
child
there's a lot I
labor.
agree
Can't
with,
forget that
but
one.
Let's break it down one by one. So it can be both, Haas. It can be that, yeah, they've done the gerrymandering. Gerrymandering has done most of the work for them, and it made their seats pretty much impenetrable. So if the Republican legislators do something, it doesn't necessarily mean that the voters of that state want it, for sure, right? But it can be that also the vicious end of the Republican base does want it, and the polling indicates that they do want it, right? And so, but the larger point here is,
I don't agree. I don't think they're. I don't think they're.
Hold on.
I don't
Let me be clearer, because it depends. If you say, do you hate trans people? The answer is no in the polling for American people. They are in favor of trans rights. They are in favor of treating trans people in the same exact way about employment, health care, etc., which is wonderful. And again, 2/3 of the country is progressive. Okay?
So maybe don't
So
buy
when
into
you go to
right-wing
ask them about
culture war
bathrooms,
talking
no.
points
When you
about
ask them
trans
the
people.
military, no. These people are willing to
Don't
give their lives
bring
to this
up
country, and you don't
trans
want to
people in
become a
sports the
monster.
way you do.
So the American people are
Don't
on
say
our side on all
inclusive
this.
language is
That's
actually
why I had to
erasing
go
women.
digging
Those are
for
helping
this
them.
Stupid high school sports thing, right? And on that, I've seen the polling, and it's over 70% of Americans are on the side of banning them. Right now, I'm on the other side. I'm with the 30%. And leave the kids alone, right? It doesn't matter if your daughter was going to break a record or whatever. Just calm down. Stop checking the genitals of kids. You're sickos. Leave them alone, right? So, but having said that, what they're trying to do, Haas, and this is the oldest trick in the book, and they did this back in the 1980s, is they dig until they find something unpopular, and they make Democrats or the left wing attack them on it. So, for example, flag burning. So flag burning, everybody knows it's protected by the First Amendment. They know it's protected by the First Amendment, but they want to make it seem like we hate America and we hate the American flag and we all want to burn it. So they contrive this bullshit issue.
Okay, so then stop buying into this shit. You can't be like, this is an issue for progressives and it doesn't win elections. Like, what issue? Oh, trans people in sports. And it's like, you're buying into the fucking right-wing narrative then, because there is no progressive person who is distinctly using that as the key part of their platform, even amongst trans politicians who are doing that. This is a right-wing talking point. This is a culture war talking point. This is something that they have found a wedge issue in, and it's their new entry point. When they don't find that one, or it stops working because people evolve, learn more, the zeitgeist moves, they become less racist, less sexist, less homophobic, all that kind of shit, they find a new talking point. You don't see them talking about how all gay people have AIDS anymore. They sure were in the fucking 80s, but they've moved on since then. They found new wedge issues to go after the queer community or marginalize people on a regular basis. And if all of a sudden they're like, well, these wacky leftists are saying that we have to erase women, we can't call women women, we have to call them birthing people, then yeah, that's going to help them out, because no one is saying that on the other side. On the other side, they're like, inclusive language is good. You should say that the right wing right now are going after women. They're trying to remove the bodily autonomy of half the population, women, comma, and people who give birth. I'm not trying to take away or erase womanhood in that process. No, not at all. This is just inclusive language. You can find that out on TYT in an 8-month-old video. They talk about this in detail.
Bonus holes or whatever the fuck, like
yes,
some psychotic weirdo British person came up with
2 years ago.
Daily Mail,
2 fucking
right?
years ago.
If you are even pushing that discourse as though this is like real and applied and and genuinely a threat to democracy because it's something that everyone is like forcing you at gunpoint to utilize, then all of a sudden you are a culture warrior, whether you admit it or not, because these issues are distractions and they're stupid as fuck, and that nobody should even talk about it, let alone amplify it. I'll take it one step further, though. There is one other issue here, and that is the Democratic Party. What do reactionaries do? They have no agenda, right? They have no agenda. They react and they try to claw back civil liberties. That's their goal. And if the Democratic Party is not actually pushing, okay, if the Democratic Party is not actually pushing material realities to change in a positive way and giving something to the Republicans to react to, right, to fight against, then all of a sudden that the reactionaries are leading the discourse.
Yeah. And
that is the problem, which is why whenever issues like this come up, because listen, I have a very dynamic stream. People come in here all the time. They say a million different things and they want me to address it or they want me to talk about it. I am very terse, very strict about, like, whenever someone comes in and they're like, address what Anna said or address what Cenk said, I'm like, no, fuck off. I don't care. Shut the fuck up. We're talking about real issues. Okay? So...
But by the way, that's almost exactly what we said, and everybody called us Nazis.
No one called you a Nazi.
Folks.
Stop saying that.
So look, guys, first of all, let's just be clear on everything, okay? So number one, I fight for trans rights. I have for 21 years.
Then what are you doing?
So
what are you doing here? What are you saying?
Whatever the hell you want, okay? So, and I just told you all
You're
my
confused.
Are actually 99% identical to the most extreme trans right activists, right? So we have a microscopic difference. So somebody asked me about it. I say it once. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. And then a giant...
No, Cenk, then stop giving fuel. Stop giving fuel to the fire. You are repeating the culture war talking points.
Let's see. Okay, so I'm like, I ignore it. And then they just keep going. And I don't give a shit. They could do whatever they want. Okay. But then don't pretend that I brought it up. No, you brought it up. And you made it a giant issue, and you're the one hurting the progressive cause and the trans rights cause. We win on every goddamn issue on trans rights. Why are you going and dying on the hill that no one agrees with you on? You're going to ruin trans rights on other issues.
Okay.
We're going to lose because you're being so extreme. And then every ally you have, you're like, nope, I'm going to be more pure than them, so I'm going to burn their bridge down. I don't want any allies. Okay, well, then don't have any allies.
Okay, if both of our goals are aligned and we are interested in coalition building and actually fighting for justice, okay, there's two different things to do here. One is try to engage in purges and try to say this purity spiral is self-defeating, which I agree with you on.
100%.
Or the other thing is to just stay the course and just let people chirp into the void and never give them an ounce of pushback, because why? Every single if people are looking for class, if people are looking for
out of here.
No, that's not a get out of here situation.
So here I'll tell you exactly what happens. Because this is really important, because you know why? So Haas, so every time we say any little thing, all the other streamers and stuff, these come in and go, oh, we're better than the Young Turks. We're better than the Young Turks. We agree with you 200%. They're such monsters. And they clutch their pearls and stuff, and etc. And then we go, okay, guys, hold on. We said a tiny thing. You guys had this nuclear reaction. Okay. Say another tiny.
It was the fucking opposite, by the way, because I know I'm one of the people at the center of this controversy. Every single person, David Dole, the Rational National, every single person, they said it in the nicest possible terms. Everyone was responding. The receipts are still online. You can look at them on Twitter. Every single person is like, deeply respect all the work that you've done with the Justice Democrats, or like, yeah, by the way, just so you know, this isn't actually, no one is demanding that women no longer be called women. That's not an actual issue. That's an issue being fabricated by the far right. It's about inclusive language. Here's a video of Anna Kasparian saying these very talking points, 8 months ago.
Parts here. One, you've immediatally ascribed to bad faith arguments to these people. You're like, saying they're cloud operated.
Do.
Okay, so one, that might not be the case. There might be genuine disagreements. That's number one. But at which point you think, well, you know better than them, right?
No, they could disagree.
Okay,
I don't give a shit.
Okay,
about
but listen. But like, okay.
But okay,
even if they are bad faith,
I'm going to call them Nazis.
Okay, even if they are bad faith.
No one called you a Nazi.
Even if they're bad faith, What the fuck are you doing giving them more clout?
I don't.
No,
I don't say anything. And then they do 200 shows about it.
It doesn't matter.
And then pretend I'm the one saying it.
It doesn't matter.
So I got to, hey, can we agree that all the other, like Lance or whatever the fuck their names are?
No.
Well, no, they should all shut the fuck up then, okay? Right? Right?
Dude,
Because that's what you're saying.
Dude.
Why are you making a big issue out of it?
Because
I only said it for 1 minute. They said it for 200 minutes. Why don't they shut the fuck up?
Oh my God, I'm gonna lose my mind.
I don't even understand what we're disagreeing about. So we agreed 99% on the issue, and we agree.
I think the major
99% that it's not a major issue, and people are making a big deal out of it.
I think the anger that people feel towards that sort of thing inevitably derives from offering any fucking light to that conversation, especially when you understand that it is just like bullshit talking points that have been focus tested and being brought up. The moment that you give it any validity, okay, and now I'm not even talking about like.
Let's talk about a general thing.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm not even talking about like talking to other leftist people or like defending your positions or whatever. I'm talking about how deeply and undesirably unproductive it is to offer any amount of consideration to literally talking points that are cooked up in a fucking laboratory about 0.1% of the fucking population.
As they do 200 shows back to back.
There are a million streamers.
Are you telling them?
There are a million streamers that have not only said things about you, but have said things about me as well. There's a difference between you and I, though, because no matter what happens, when people do write those things or people do say those things about me, I've learned the hard way not to give it any credence.
I'm over 9,000.
Fucking course. And ultimately,
Fucking
if
hell.
people have made up their minds that I am a transphobic person, then that's, GG's. There's nothing I can do about that. If people think that I'm bad on racial issues or if I'm a misogynistic person, then there's nothing that I can change about their perspective. They are entirely too malleable, which is why I have assumed positions on.
I got under his things. Well, you know why? It's because of my signature phrase. You all know me, right? I was like, yeah, Cenk. Ho ho! Ha ha! I'm so pure. Oh, look at me clutch my pearls. I'm so pure. Ho ho! Once again.
Is because I fucking ignore it. Because I know that it is unproductive. That's it.
Yeah.
And the second thing I will say, and this is something that I try to talk to my audience about quite frequently, is that being a progressive is not about having black people or trans people hype you up all the fucking time. There are going to be plenty of moments where you are going to be at odds with activists.
Hasan is on
plenty
fire.
Of moments where you have disagreements.
Honestly, this might be my favorite Hasan debate ever because of how fucking patient he's being and not letting points get away from him and just like pausing and then being like, okay, before we move on, we have to get down to this. And then just seeing the cycle of him continuously blaming, like, oh, they'll call me a Nazi. I never once called him a Nazi. Never once.
Because and I don't think I made a good enough case for this distinction, and I want to be way clearer. There's a difference between randos in the world that care about this issue, whether they agree with me or disagree with me, or they heard the wrong thing about me,
by the way,
or they have heard the right thing and they still think this guy's a Republican and I hate him. No problem.
I've never called you a Republican.
And media figures, streamers, etc. Those guys
Lance.
are largely scorpions. And it's because the incentives and disincentives create scorpions. Because when you attack someone else, you get into the algorithm loop on YouTube, mainly YouTube, but in some other places as well, and you try to get attention. So they don't even know, I hope they don't know, a lot of them, that they're doing it on purpose. I hope they're not doing it on purpose, but probably some of them are, right? But they think like, no, this is really important. I have to correct the record by attacking the Young Turks. Oh, look at that. My views went up. What a wonderful coincidence. I'm going to do it again and again and again. And this is not just about radical left. Are you crazy? No way. The right wing started this. Why does Steven Crowder dress up as me?
Yeah,
Right?
I was about to say, listen,
Right?
listen, but you're
So why did Jimmy Dore attack me like a nut job? Why did Sargon of Akkad go back like 15 years?
Partially
why
because
did Sam Harris? Why did all of them attack us?
partially
When
because
go
you
on YouTube,
respond.
We're the largest.
Partially because you respond. It's called getting farmed. Trust me, I know from personal experience what that's like. I, for a very long time, I got farmed like a motherfucker, okay? Because just like you, perhaps because I am also as stubborn as you are, I couldn't shut the fuck up anytime there was like any error, okay? Whenever someone said, this is what Hasan believes or whatever the fuck, I immediately rushed to correct the record, thinking that there was good faith discussion to be had. Now, out of the people that are actually criticizing you, there are people who I do like, who I do appreciate. I'm not going to get into that part of the conversation because I feel like that's going to blow a lid in this. It's going to make you blow a gasket. But the reality is that ultimately, if you want to have a productive, if you want to have a productive and successful coalition, you just can't.
I like the people saying win, Lance.
Okay, you can't.
No, I'm good with it.
Even if
Look,
they say,
I was super clear. You like what we're saying, you come to the Young Truths. If you don't like it and you want super radical weirdos, there's like a million shows for you.
That's what you're doing. Like you're casting everyone else in a bad light. Don't even talk about it. Don't even bring it up. That's it.
Okay, so I know I've been punched in the face 200 times, and I'm not allowed to punch back.
Exactly, 100%. That's what I'm saying. Yes, you get it. That is what I'm saying. That's what being fucking progressive is. Okay? If someone on your side is punching you, you ultimately turn around and say, I don't give a fuck. It's fine, because the real motherfucker whose face I have to punch is out there that actually holds on to all levers of power. Because while we're fucking arguing about the minutia of your perspective on trans issues, or whenever like you choose to engage in like any kind of reactionary framing of an issue, there are actual fucking people out there who are making everyone's lives actively worse. So why the fuck would I ever care about what some dumbass fucking YouTuber has to say when Ben Shapiro is, again, stealing our fucking lunch money and doing whatever the fuck is necessary to keep propagandizing every fucking awful position that makes people's lives worse. Right. That's why I fucking cover Ben Shapiro every day, by the way, you dumb cocksuckers in here who fucking think like, oh, why does the song talk about Ben Shapiro all the time? That's why. Because he's the fucking bad guy. You will never see me fucking agree with Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder or any of those fucking bullshit charlatans out there, because those are the fucking bad guys. I don't give a fuck if people call me transphobic or racist or whatever the fuck. I'm not gonna stray away from my point of view, but more importantly, and I don't think you do either, but there's this one issue that you and I have, there's one disagreement, there's one difference that you and I have. You spend entirely too much time thinking about all the people on your side who fucking hate you, okay? Who say you're bad and wrong, even if it's a misunderstanding. Don't even fucking clear it up. It doesn't matter. People will see where you are genuinely coming from when you keep saying the same shit that you're saying that you've said for 20 fucking years. That's it, okay? A lot of people yelled at me during the fucking Hogwarts drama. There were every trans content creator on Twitter yelled at me, okay, and said, you're a fucking a piece of shit, you're transphobic. Oh, what you?
I just want to issue a small correction here. Like, a lot of people in the best of faith spoke about this issue. Jessie Gender is a really good example. She made a video on it. She explained in the friendliest terms and was really nice and respectful, and just said nothing but praise for Hasan, because she's like obviously a big fan like everyone else. There was a lot of really good faith criticism
that is making money off of it, and instead use it to fundraise or push the issue further. Everybody yelled at me, said that was incredibly transphobic. What the fuck did I do? I shut the fuck up. I said, you guys are wrong, but it doesn't matter. History will absolve me. It did. Who gives a shit? The game fucking sucked. Right-wingers like Ben Shapiro made commentary on it, saying that Hasan is terrified of trans people in his own audience, and that's why he also has to capitulate to the trans people in his own audience, when if I wanted to capitulate, I would have never said anything about Hogwarts whatsoever, and I would have just stayed the course and never played it and said, yes, it's a transphobic fucking game. But I didn't do that because I'm a stubborn piece of shit. I yelled at the people and I moved on. Many of those people who thought I was transphobic in that fucking fervor have come to the realization that they were maybe wrong. A lot of people don't want to admit that they're wrong, especially when tensions are fucking high. It doesn't matter. They finally quietly come to that conclusion that you were on, if they truly do believe that you are genuinely on their side. That's it. So just make your work speak for itself. You don't have to constantly fucking yell about random trans people online. And yes, that's what being the bigger progressive media person it revolves around. You have to do that. That's it.
All right, look, I'm going to take your advice. Let's move on because it's a microscopic issue.
There you go.
So
let's talk about defund the police now.
Okay, so the overall issue that
and before we do that,
there's two
I got to run the 3-minute ad break real quick, and I'm going to pee, but you can keep going. Oh, shit.
No, if you're going to run an ad break, run an ad break.
No, I did already, but people can still watch because there's 56,000 subscribers in here, 56,000 strong. So most people are not seeing the ads. All right, go ahead.
Oh, whoever gifted me a sub to Hasan's channel, thanks. I appreciate the gifted subs. And anyone who's watching right now, if you have an extra $1 to spare, gift a sub to somebody. They might like it. And also, if you have Prime, connect it to your account. You can subscribe for free. It helps support the channel. Costs you nothing. That's only if you have Prime. Don't sign up for Prime. Amazon's not a great company. I do stream on it, but anyways, yeah. So far, amazing to see. I'd say the only point I've disagreed with Hasan on so far is still re-invoking the Hogwarts legacy. I wasn't someone who was calling him transphobic for wanting to stream it. I was simply agreeing with the statement that with any civil rights movement, specifically, I'm not trans, I'm cis, and if, the vast majority of a community saying, hey, by the way, we want things on our own terms, yes, like the liberty of any marginalized group has to come on their own terms. It can't come from an oppressive group. I'm the oppressor, I'm cis. So that's why I was like, all right, I agree with this. Not that I actually wanted to play Hogwarts. That was an easy one for me. I wasn't going to play it anyway, so I didn't actually have to be like, oh god, I can't play the wizard game. But otherwise, fucking beautiful. Amazing to see him calling out Cenk on all of this bullshit. It is a complete lie and fabrication that I called Cenk a Nazi in 200 plus videos. I did what I said then, what I'm saying right now. I stand by that. Yes, inclusive language is good. No one was saying the term woman has to be erased and that you can't call women women. No one was saying that. No one. No one on the leftist mafia. Fucking Olayemi wasn't saying that. We weren't saying that. We were saying inclusive language is good, actually. I know you agree with that. You had the exact same talking points 8 months ago. Well, sorry, Anna did in a separate video. It's a right-wing fucking culture war bullshit point to try and bring up the fact that at the end of the day, hey, they're trying to erase the term woman and turn us into birthing persons. And it's like, no, it's women, comma, and people who give birth. That's it. It takes nothing away. If you don't want to say it, you don't have to, but no one is saying this is like the ultimate issue of our time and weird ass shit like that. Yeah, or the bonus hole one. The bonus hole one, if anyone doesn't know, it started 2 fucking years ago because of a pamphlet that was given out, and then the right took that pamphlet and then weaponized it 2 years later by fucking Ollie London, the extreme racist, by the way. Ollie London's the one who's like, yeah, now they're saying that like, apparently you can't even refer to a vagina as a vagina. It has to be called fucking bonus hole. And it's like, no one is advocating for that. No one amongst the LGBTQ plus community is like, all right, so the top tier concern is not the Republican fucking bills that are being passed to try and limit fucking autonomy and civil rights. It's this is what it all comes down to. Let me just quickly give a thank you. Thank you so much to Berserk for gifting this one a free sub. Appreciate you.
Impression of who you are as a movement. And so, whenever I talk to people who are in favor of defunding the police, the very first thing they usually say is, no, I don't really mean defund the police. Then why did you call it that?
So
don't call it that at all.
What would you message it as?
So look, it depends on what you're trying to do. So for example, and I believe in, as I think you, but we do have real substantive disagreements too, but I believe in criminal justice reform. I believe the cops training is completely wrong. They're taught only protect yourselves, don't worry about the citizens, etc. Are there racial issues? Of course there are. Are there class issues? Of course they are. So I would want massive reform, and I would want the messaging to be around reform, which the great majority of Americans actually agree with. Again, 2/3 of the country is progressive. They agree with us. Don't drive them away with bad messaging, okay? When people hear defund the police, they hear there's not going to be any cops, and they panic. And it's not just white folks that panic. It's not just right-wingers that panic. Ilhan Omar almost lost her seat in a primary because 78% of African Americans in her district.
Spectacular Snyder, man. Thank you so much for the tier 1 subscription. If it's the same account, by the way, who does all that activism on Twitter, you do great work fucking going after all these racist-ass white supremacist baddies like the Quarter Eat and shit.
their fucking job. Is that good?
That's actually
Is that better?
really good, and I talk about that all the time.
Okay, listen, here's the issue, though, right, with defund the police. As far as messaging goes and as far as optics goes, you yourself have basically created an argument that you are not using in this situation. You said the media is all too powerful in manipulating public consciousness, and they can change people's attitudes for the better, even if it's entirely at odds with the material realities and the oppressive constructs built on top of those material realities. If that is the case, then optics issues are simply an issue caused by the media not pushing the message enough. Is that what you're saying? So if in a future where MSNBC is truly progressive, that they could just be like, no, defund the police is actually fucking super sweet. Let's go forward. Do you think people would be on board with it?
No, because it's mixed. So yes,
Pucky luck.
The message,
Thank you for the prime.
Thanks
for using your prime. I appreciate
important.
it.
So if you had the message of kill all people, that would not work well, even if MSNBC pushed it to ad nauseum, right? And defund the police is such a fundamentally wrong framing.
You think defund the police is a message as aggressive and as wrong as like kill all people? No.
I gave an extreme example, so not all examples are the same, but I think defund the police is almost as bad a message as you could possibly find, because it leaves the impression that there will be no police, no safety, no security, and it freaks people the fuck out. That's a fact, and it's shown in every poll.
Okay. Defund the police means what? Reallocate some of these ballooning police budgets to social safety nets and social programs, because that's where crime starts, and that's the best mechanism to combat certain types of crime, at the very least. Okay.
So that's where we get into substance.
So you don't agree with the policy, not just the optics. Let's just clarify that.
Yeah. So now the optics, I 100% disagree. When it comes to policy, it's much more nuanced. And by the way, if people don't like nuance, then you're not going to like me at all. Because you're going to, oh no, I want a black and white world. I want everything to be extreme. No, I'm not that guy. So where does the nuance come in? So if you say to me, should we reform the police, reform the training? Obviously, as I said earlier, I say yes, right? Say, let's reallocate some of the funding, social services. We keep the same amount of money, but move some of it from cops.
I don't think
to
they should keep
social
the same amount of money.
Okay, hold on. We'll get to that in a second. Some of it to social services because they can handle X better. I'm open to that. I'm totally open to that. Okay.
So it's a semantics difference. You're saying like keep the same amount of money, but don't.
It's a branding difference. Like that's really what it gets down to, and that's a wild thing to be like. And the problem is just the idea: defund the police, abolish the prison system. These are losing issues. It's like, okay, so if we get down to fundamentally, do you agree with some of the policies that the abolition movement wants? It's like, yes, absolutely. So once again, isn't this what you are accusing like the other groups of doing as well? You know, like you simply don't like the branding of it. Fine.
In fixing some of the pervasive problems, you don't agree with that.
No. So look, so here's what happened. So if you had asked me that a couple of years ago, I probably would have agreed with that. And then we did in some places reallocate some of the money or cut some of the money. And so it's a little bit misleading in places like Washington, D.C., because they took from one budget and moved it to another budget, etc. But the bottom line is they did lose a number of cops in a bunch of cities. Okay, they lost raw number of cops.
Yeah, they died to COVID.
Yeah. Well, look, there was a lot of factors.
That's what happened.
Including cops not doing their job,
to COVID.
which I'll get to in a second.
It was the biggest cop killer that year.
Less cops, but that's not the main problem. But that was one of the contributing problems that led to more crime. Now, other things that I agreed with now have created issues. So, for example, no cash bail, okay? I was totally in favor of no cash bail because I totally get the argument. I was the one putting forward that argument of, hey, a rich guy and a poor guy does the same crime. Rich guy gets out on bail. Poor guy can't get out on bail. That's totally unfair, right? But what wound up happening is recidivism is a massive part of crime. And so when we did no cash bail, yes, there are a number of guys who are down on their luck, you know, high, whatever. There's a number of factors. And when we did no cash bail for them, they just went out and did more crime, more crime, more crime, more crime, more crime. And it became a real significant problem. And so when I look at it,
a certain point, I got to cut you off because you've made a couple points that I definitely disagree with.
Right. So, let me just button it up this way.
Okay.
And there's other factors. But my point is, let's be open to how do we get to the right reform so we have justice and they don't beat up black guys for no reason. They don't beat up homeless people for no reason. They don't shoot people for no reason. But at the same time, have a reasonable policy where we protect the citizens.
Okay, great. So I've said this before. I'm not an abolitionist in the sense that, like, I don't believe that there is no necessity for a group of people, whether it's democratically organized or not, that will maintain the presence of law and order, but also solve crimes and do what police are theoretically supposed to do: protect and serve the community, protect and serve the people. In the United States of America, throughout the history of the United States of America, I do not believe that the police force, or whatever it was originally in its original inceptions, whether in the North they were the guys who were supposed to protect commerce in shipyards, or slave catchers in the South, have ever done that. They've always been protecting and serving the interests of capital. So that's definitely an issue that I have.
I want to see him answer that. Like, what
having
does he think
said
about
that, however, you brought up a couple different points that I disagree with. In terms of defund the police,
he's not running,
and also
he's considering
about
a run.
How
he hasn't announced
less
it, though.
police have caused more crime, and crime has like exploded in cities and whatnot.
The contributing factor.
I do not believe that in the slightest. I do believe that what is known as the blue flu has created a lot of issues that police are supposed to theoretically solve, which they never really have done a good job with. If you look at their clearance rates, you will realize that. Okay, but beyond that, it's gotten even worse than it was before, because these are the most selfish, the most lazy, the most entitled, gigantically, insanely violent, uneducated paramilitary group that you could have ever fucking put together, and all of their ineptitude and criminal negligence is constitutionally protected. They have no right to they have no duty to actually have to protect you. They can shoot you if they perceive you to be a threat when you're running away. All of these things have been protected by the Supreme Court. The real reason is because police are supposed to be a violent brigade that will defend and protect the interests of capital when push comes to shove. That is the reason why they are the way that they are. Okay? The idea that their funding is fine and that their numbers are diminishing, and that's what actually is like a real gigantic problem for crime, is, in my opinion, a historical and completely incorrect. They have gotten more money year over year, including in the defund the police years, where not a single fucking precinct, with, I believe, one exception, it might have been Minneapolis, if I'm not mistaken, okay? Not a single fucking precinct actually had diminished resources or diminished funds. As a matter of fact, they got more money, and they got the most amount of money in comparison to all of the other amenities that the local governments are supposed to offer. The Los Angeles Police Department gets costs taxpayers $8 million a day to operate. Okay, and what is that operation? Fucking not doing shit when a robbery is happening in front of them. Okay, now if you ask them, they'll say it's because you don't want me to be violent. You made me this way. You don't want me to stop the crime, so I'm not doing it. They're like petulant little fucking children, okay, who refuse to do the fucking job that they are supposed to do. They have the best fucking workplace protections. They basically live in like a social democracy. They're the only individuals in society that have like fat pension programs and permanent job security. And then on top of that, what is their job? Is to be able to fucking shoot people if they want to and get away with it. It's fucking insane. Okay? So it's nuts. The entire structure is fundamentally broken. Okay? And and that is by design. They are supposed to be that way. They are supposed to operate that way because when push comes to shove, when people are rioting in the streets or whatever, okay, when the inherent contradictions become ever present, and people start to react to that in either direction, okay, whether it's like reactionary activity, 3%ers and the like, or whether it's like people fucking throwing Molotov cocktails or whatever because they're losing their minds at the reality that they have no economic prospects, and it feels like their lives are getting progressively shittier. Okay, they will sit there and they will put their fucking police force in rich neighborhoods and protect those people and ensure that storefronts are not damaged.
So there's actually a lot I agree with you on. The main difference is that I think all those factors contribute, whereas you think the biggest factor is the cops basically not doing their job / their job was always misdirected in the first place, right? So I don't disagree with you on that at all. I just think that that's a big part of the equation, but not the whole equation. So, and I'll give you a couple of examples from LA to give you a sense of what I think are the issues. So in terms of the funding or the number of cops, I think that is a factor. You don't think it's a factor, but I actually think it's a relatively small factor.
If that was the case, then policing would have gotten better year over year as their funds grew, right?
And so, by the way, though, hold on. Don't make that argument, Huss, because crime statistics got way better throughout the years as police budgets did get larger, right? So that doesn't really help your argument. Now, but I don't think it's that simple either. I don't think it was just the police budgets. No, there was a lot of different things that happened with crime that made crime go lower, including, by the way, lead in the walls and the paints and the cars.
I was about to say, I was like,
yeah, but I'm glad that you at least brought up the lead point because crime has globally gone down.
Yeah,
in areas where police budgets, have not gone up as high as the United States of America.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out that it doesn't help your cause to say that the budgets have gone up.
As police budgets have ballooned in the United States, so has the carceral state, to the point now where the United States has more prisoners than any other country in human history. That's the reality. It's 1% of the population.
That I'm going to tell you. But it's also because of some of the laws that we passed. And so now some very violent crimes are misdemeanors. And they should not be misdemeanors because misdemeanors get pled down to nothing. Felonies get pled down to misdemeanors. Misdemeanors get pled down to nothing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so no one's talking about that. That is a giant part of the problem.
What crimes are you talking about?
Some sexual assaults are misdemeanors. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's insane. It's totally insane. So a guy in New York subway took a dump and smeared it on a woman's face, and that was a misdemeanor. How is that a misdemeanor? Are you insane? Okay. So, look. And maybe some mistakes were made there, and they should have made some of those things misdemeanors. And that's exactly my point. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and you don't have to go to extremes and say we should only focus on one or the other, right? But now I'll give you an anecdote that is an example of the type of thing that happens. So I have a neighbor who's...
by the way, we're not operating under the principle that like the New York Police Department or the New York court structure or New York in general, currently led by a cop mayor, is in any way, shape, or form like engaging in police abolition, right? Or defunding the police.
No, but
because it is more expensive to run the NYPD than like multiple countries' military.
Yeah, I don't think the budget is the
issue. It's almost half our military budget in Canada.
Okay, so let me give you that.
But you used the poop example to
No, that example was not about budgeting.
What was the poop example?
I
missed that one.
If that's a misdemeanor, it gets pled down to nothing. So we have to make sure the serious crimes are felonies.
Okay. By the way, so you and I do agree on NYPD not being underfunded, but if you ask the NYPD, they are the most underfunded.
Oh, of course, they're always going to say that.
Okay.
Look, are you kidding me?
So they're lying. Okay.
So here, I'm gonna get to that in a second. Of course, they're lying. Of course, they are. So it's not. What am I trust? Do I just trust cops? No way. So let me explain. So I have a neighbor. We wound up having some deranged person.
Also, that guy was charged with felonies. Apparently, the poop man.
Okay, so good. I'm happy that he was, but there's
so the question in that situation though is like,
but originally he was let go.
I don't know.
So
the poop man
we have
story.
to
what is the poop
That's
man?
an example. There are many examples, but let's if you want to dive into that one and see what went wrong.
It's your
why
anecdote.
He was let go. So that's great. Let's find out why he was let go because he definitely should not have been let go.
Okay, so you brought up an anecdote.
So that was about cash bail.
So he got out because there's no cash bail. Right? Okay, got it.
To eliminate
cash bail was important to talk about as well, which is really important, especially with the conditions in Rikers as the way that they are. One reason why.
Hold on, can I just tell the story because it informs
but
the rest of the conversation?
I didn't think that I had to fact check you on something, but like, of course, we're gonna have to cut through for a second. You know what I mean?
Okay, so why was he let go? Was it cash bail or a felony misdemeanor issue? Because it was definitely one of them.
I don't know why he was let go.
Okay,
You're the
that
one who
guy
brought
was
it
let
up.
go
I
like
did not
11
know.
times. If I misremembered and it was 12 or 9, okay, correct it. No big deal. I'm happy to have whatever it was corrected. But there's a million examples of like just like that.
The reason why cash bail and all of these kinds of, I guess, supposedly progressive implementations are happening is not because people have George Soros-backed district attorneys that want to undermine the American criminal justice system. It is out of necessity because of how draconian the American criminal justice system is that we simply do not have enough space in our carceral state that currently houses, chains 25% of the entire population's incarcerated population, despite America being only 4% of the world's entire population. We have an overpopulation and overcrowding problem in our prison system, and that problem didn't happen overnight. It did not materialize out of nowhere. It happened with centuries of having the most draconian outlook on crime and punishment and refusing to analyze the structural issues that cause crime, the poverty cycle, the cycle of poverty and violence. That is why we are now at a situation where our prison population, our prisons are filled to the fucking brim, and the alternative is what? Like building more prisons, I guess, instead of trying to push for a different way of trying to solve the underlying reasons as to why crime and mental disorder manifests in the public. That is my argument.
Yeah. No. So listen, if you say we imprison way too many people, I 100% agree. So now, but then you've got to break it down. So why did we imprison too many people in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, etc.? Because we had insane drug laws. That marijuana possession was a very serious crime, right? And we filled the jails with people
There's one other reason.
marijuana.
There's one other reason.
What's that?
There's a material reason for it. Slavery.
Yeah, I got you. So, and we built private prisons. The private prisons fund the politicians. All that is
Private
true.
prisons are minor, even though they are like objectively one of the most cruel and inhumane things that you could do, that like Europeans look to and go, what the fuck, you guys have that? Like you guys capitalize and profit off of the existence of fucking prisons? Like that's nuts. That's a small part of the puzzle, small part of the conversation.
So
the state prison structure also relies on slavery as a form of punishment. And
but Haas, okay, I first of all, I think that the prisons were far too many, and we were imprisoning too many people, and mainly on drug charges. And yes, there are nefarious other reasons that you point out. I point out private prisons. You point out slavery. And yes, slavery is real. They make them work for $1 or less per day, which is ridiculous. I know and fight against all of that.
Jenks said, get your money up, not your funny up. You say get your money up to the fucking to the prison system. You know, pay these motherfuckers more.
So okay, but look, but at the end of the day, what is it that we're putting people in prison for? If you say just generically, okay, let's have less people in prison, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, should we let out murderers, rapists? Of course not, right? Mm-hmm. So the question is, what should people go to prison for? So we all agree they should not go to prison for marijuana possession. That's insane, right? But we all agree that they should go to prison for murder and rape and the horrible crimes. Louisiana. So now we might disagree around the edges, but those are important edges, right? And so now when say the prisons are awful, I totally agree. I don't know why we allow for the prisons to be disgusting, right? And how they treat people, the solitary confinement. I mean,
the average existence of a poor person in America is disgusting. Why the fuck would they care about prisoners on top of that?
No,
Nobody
but
cares.
what we do in the prisons is beyond inhumane. And of course. So like there's all the jokes like, aha, you're going to go to prison, you're going to get raped. Why is that funny? Why is that a thing that we think is normal? No, rape is not normal. People going to prison and getting raped is not normal. That's insane, right? So do we need massive reform of the prisons? Yes. Do we actually need to spend more money to make those prisons bearable? And I don't mean just give it to the guards. I don't mean just give it to the warden. I mean actually make the prisons bearable. And we know that creates less crime. Look at Norway. Recidivism is much lower in Norway, and they have much more humane prisons. So reasonable people agree, progressives agree, the great majority of the country agrees, but yet our goddamn politicians won't do it. So those are great places to start. When you get to the issue of cash bail, Haas, I was in favor of it, but now it clearly shows that there's a problem with recidivism. So can we agree, hey, you get no cash bail on the first one.
Can I say something?
But on the second one, if you do another crime,
you want to do
then you need cash to get out of. Sorry, then you need bail because you are
so it's
incorrigible.
Still
You're
disproportionately
more and more crimes.
will hurt the poor.
And I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you brutalize the citizens because it's not fair. It's not just.
So you agree with the policy, you just want one extra
Hold on. This is important because let's walk through some stuff here. Because last time you were here, you brought up some talking points that were just I was fundamentally at odds with. And this is another issue of disagreement, a point of contention. Okay? So as far as cash bail goes, okay, the walk me through what you think happens in that structure. Like, do you think that someone goes up and in front of a judge and they're like a habitual reoffender and the judge just goes, oh, there's no cash bail, so you're released? Do you think that's what happens?
Unfortunately, a great amount of times that is what happens. Yes.
Okay. No, it's not a great amount of times where that happens. It does certainly happen, though. I'm not going to say that it doesn't, but this is, in many respects, the classic Michael Dukakis moment where crime is a hot button issue and it invokes a lot of passion out of people. So anecdotes work really well in comparison to actual empirical evidence. The problem with cash bail is not that like people just keep stealing cars. You can give me 1,000 examples overall of being like, this guy's a carjacker and he got released immediately and he jacked another car, right? Ultimately, the data does not show that these people are becoming repeat offenders. And what you are describing is an issue within the criminal justice system with a singular judge, or maybe some judges that fuck up every now and then. Because ultimately, if someone is a habitual reoffender, the job of the judge that you are bringing up is to say, no, dog, you're a poop guy. You're the guy. I'm sorry. You've smeared too much poop. Like, this is your second time doing this.
My first time hearing
I'm not offering you bail, because cash bail does not mean that judges have no power to offer. Judges have no power to stop you from, entering a carceral facility at any given moment.
If you committed a murder, you're not going to get bail anyway.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that is.
But Haas, then do you agree with me that if you do it a second time, that you need to pay bail?
I don't think that legislating that is the smart decision, because.
Yes.
Well, if you
go ahead.
Well, then
why don't you think it's
then
smart?
the 3 strikes law would be a smart idea.
Okay, no, 3 strikes is you lose your entire life.
Yeah,
you lose.
Yeah,
etc. And so, no, there's a difference. Like, there was a guy in Louisiana that was serving a life sentence for stealing a pair of hedge clippers, right?
Okay,
but that's a different issue.
The principle
than,
behind
hey, I'm letting you out to do another crime and another crime and another crime.
The principle,
I'm asking you, like, so would you? Is there? If it's not 2, is it 3? Is it 4?
What you're describing is literally codifying that in that way is quite literally running into the same exact problem that feeds into the carceral state. Whereas, no, the problem there is judges should have discretion, okay? And they should apply that discretion appropriately, rather than saying they are no longer able to apply discretion whatsoever because the law does not permit you. Because
I'm perfectly comfortable saying if someone does, especially if you go to 3 crimes, they got let out with no bail. No, sorry, brother.
That's quite literally the principle.
The law,
you're describing the principle behind the 3 strikes law.
Except for the fact that one is about bail, and you're going to get an actual court
proper systems, poor people
receive
keep committing
justice,
crimes,
and you will receive a trial.
Which, of course,
you have a criminal record. It's a lot harder to get a job. Period.
Liberty away for the rest of your life.
Which, of course, brings us back.
Difference.
Which, of course, brings us back to the major reason as to why people are just kind of letting people go, and that is that Rikers is an insane place to even fucking exist. And no, a lot of those people are not getting their fucking day in court immediately because the courts are fucking backed up because we have an incredibly draconian criminal justice system.
That's why you shouldn't commit 3 crimes in a row, because you don't want to go to Rikers.
Okay, that's awesome that you said that, because you think that higher sentences
he's talking about
more
potentially innocent people. They haven't
of punishing
fucking gone
crime
to trial yet.
Is an adequate deterrent strategy when there is not a single piece of paper that you could point to throughout. You just gave that as a reason for deterrence.
No,
it doesn't work.
No, brother,
it doesn't work. It has never worked.
Hold on.
Don't want to go to jail. Don't do crime.
3 times in a row, I'm not worried about deterrence. I'm worried about getting him the fuck off the street so he stops punching defenseless women in the face while they're trying to get to work. Okay, so I'm going to take his ass off the street. You committed.
No one's defending people punching people in the street. There's no one on that side. There's no one like, well, I'm actually for the punching random old ladies on the street, actually. I think they should have a right to do that. No, that's why I don't want any laws or anything. Yeah, I'm the Joker or something like that. No, fuck that noise. It's that people, and this was a specific example that Hasan brought up. There are people in Rikers, because of the cash bail system, who haven't even been found guilty of the crimes they could have committed. Some of them could be innocent, and while they await their day in trial, they're going to die horrifyingly in a prison cell. What if they were innocent? Like if they had the ability to afford a good judge? Not to mention, we haven't even brought up the fact that they're disproportionately black and brown people. Like there's so much fundamentally fucked up about that system. It's barbaric and torturous.
No, that's not.
Recidivism is like the #1 problem.
Recidivism,
a tiny amount of criminals create a giant number of crimes.
Wait. I know that. Recidivism doesn't happen specifically on the bail side, though. Recidivism is the sum total of all people who were incarcerated that get out of prison after serving their sentence, Cenk. There is a much larger number of people that are serving prison sentences and getting out and then engaging in crime again, rather than like being apprehended for a moment, being detained, and then fucking going out and doing the crime again. That's not recidivism.
So you're just talking past reality. You guys are going into the... Hold on. You guys are going into stores. Guys are harassing people on the streets.
No one is defending petty crime. No one is defending violence.
And that's why they're coming back. And
no one's saying that's a good thing. I'm for that. That's my team.
Not happening. You're arguing against reality, and that's exactly what I'm saying here. You're losing people. You're losing people who are on your side because they go, that's not reality. That's not the reality that I live in. They're locking up all the stuff in the CVS because guys keep coming in and taking it.
That's another really good. See, again, all matter
you
of.
You think that it just
all matter.
Okay. Also, by the way, like you don't have to believe hook, line, and sinker every single thing that every single major brand is talking about right now in terms of like, oh yes, it turns out every single year our theft has gone to billions of dollars. We can't afford it, so we're closing down stores. And then it turns out like a lot of those major chains, when investigated, it's like, well, it doesn't actually demonstrate that, and there's actually a lot of reasons for downsizing and a difference of reasons why people and spending patterns have been changing. Like for example, Dollarama and dollar stores, their stocks are doing great and their profits are going incredibly. Like every single time I see this, by the way, and it's like people are just destroying society, stealing from stores. It's like baby formula again. Holy shit. Oh, look at all the diapers this dude stole. And I was like, I'm not defending stealing shit, okay? I'm not defending fucking breaking into stores and stealing their wares. This has nothing to do with it. But what does that tell you? If you see a person stealing food, what does that tell you about society? Like, what do we have to fix here? And if the only thing you look at, I'm here to get them off the street. Fuck them. Fuck every one of those poor ass people stealing fucking food. And it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe something else is broken. Maybe a for-profit prison system in general is just like an incredibly fucked up idea that we shouldn't be entertaining at all. There shouldn't be a profit incentive behind locking human beings in cages. Maybe that's fucked up. Like, not that like, oh wow, yet another poor person stole diapers to be able to fucking provide for their family.
Want to make money because they wanted to make some political point?
Do you think organized retail theft is capable of stealing $112 billion?
Oh, thank God he's talking about wage theft.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally internal theft in the same way that
has always existed.
Employees.
No bail reform has ever passed
includes
includes violent felonies. Every single piece of legislation that's passed has been for non-violent offenses.
not only that, but also there's inventory mismanagement, things that are damaged in the process. That's a part of shrink as well.
Always.
Shrink across the board has not increased in a dramatic way, according to the national.
Why are they closing down the stores?
Because real estate.
Because you can't make money.
That's insane. They can't make money because of real estate, Cenk. They can't make money because brick and mortar has no basis anymore. There's no way to make money with a fucking Walgreens. No, that's a much larger factor. It's insane to say that like 3 fucking teenagers or 100 teenagers even are a gang of roving teenagers are able to literally take down the entire retailers in neighborhoods. That's crazy. You know why shrink is actually increased? Self-checkout. That's why shrink is actually increased, because you know what contributes to shrink? That $112 billion number. You know what actually increases that? You and everyone else that goes into a fucking Wawa and like steals the Skittles. What do you think is happening more frequently? Roving gangs of people that are able to steal billions of dollars of merchandise, or a sum total of every fucking American doing the same goddamn thing without even thinking about it when they just go into a Wawa and yoink a Skittles at 2 a.m. when they're high as fuck? That's what is actually the shrink.
But Haas, I'm not denying any of the factors that you mentioned. Those are all real factors. But you're denying the one factor that everyone can see with their eyes. So are you saying, so what should we do with those guys who break into those places?
Okay.
Shouldn't we put them in prison right away and make sure?
Do I think that police should stop robberies? Yes, I do.
Thank you.
That is insane. No, that's not a few moment, because the reality that
because no one is on the other side of that issue. No one is saying, wow, it would be really awesome if mom and pop operations just had fucking roving gangs smash the windows and steal everything. Yeah, that's my position. That's where I'm going to be fucking, debating from.
I just gave you empirical evidence. You gave me look around. That is the reality. How is that not any different than what Ben Shapiro does?
First of all, we all see that they walk into the stores, they take the stuff. We all see that the stuff gets locked up. We all see the stores closing down. Not only that, we all experience it. So finally, can I just get to the anecdote that I was talking about? Because it's instructive, because it improves definitively anything, but it's instructive for the point I'm trying to make, okay? Which is partly agrees with some of the things that you have said, okay? So, we got a guy in the neighborhood. He's carrying around this metal pipe, and he's sharpened the edge, and it looks like a frickin' spear. By the way, there was another lady with a machete, and these are real stories. You can catch feelings over, but they're absolutely real. And by the way, the lady with the machete, nobody did anything about her because the cops say, "Oh no, we don't see the machete." That's the cops not doing their job, right?
I agree. Yeah.
But at the same time, they go, "We take her in. She comes right back out." Okay, so at some point, she finally grabbed a mom and a kid. Finally, they took her away. She comes back 48 hours later. Okay, fine. But now, the guy with the spear is yelling the N-word 24/7 at the corner of the block. So I have a biracial neighbor. She comes out, and he sees her, and he starts calling her the N-word, and he's got a goddamn weapon.
What is happening?
And then
what is happening right now?
Eventually, begrudgingly, right? And the cops say, no, we're not going to do it. He puts away the spear. The other lady takes it away. The cops go, no, we're not going to do anything about it. And so
anecdotes are coming for your kids.
And they say, why? My neighbor asks, why?
Better look out. The anecdotes will get you.
Reasons. One, we bring them in and they get released. You want me to bring them in? He's going to be back out here in a couple of hours. Okay?
Earlier you said you don't believe cops, and now you're saying you believe cops.
Let me finish the story. And then as they're leaving, they then say, if you care about this, you should care about how you vote. So that's the cops saying, I'm not going to do my goddamn job unless you vote Republican, unless you can let me kick people's ass for a living. I don't like solving crime. I like kicking ass and when I have an overwhelming advantage, right? So is that real? Yes, it's real. But it is also real, Haas, that when they bring them in, they let them out. And so what happened with the lady with the machete? She's back out in 48 hours.
Thank you for bringing this up because it made me more angry at the cops.
That's my point. Both things are true, Haas.
Is it?
Okay.
It's hard to tell.
Doing their jobs. And if I was in New York City police, if I was Bill de Blasio,
apparently there was like the N-word Olympics going in town, and that's why bail reform
when he was doing like a mild critique of cops or something.
Yeah, I remember they run the show over there, the Sergeant Benevolent Association.
Yeah,
they dox his child.
Yeah, you know what I would have done? I would have been like, "You're fired and you're fired. Go ahead and sue me, okay?" And police chief, you're fucking fired. And if you don't do your goddamn job, you're all going to get fired.
Okay.
Go ahead and sue me. Okay?
Can we before
so both are factors.
Okay.
He arguably would be decent in an 80s, style, buddy cop drama.
Thing while I was trying to show
he
you
could be the
something
police
that
chief.
is objectively true. Walgreens.
I'll be the
when
criminal.
When
I'll be
they
like, ho
closed
ho,
down
you'll
their
never catch
shops
me.
in
Ho
certain
ho.
areas, they said it was crime. Crime was the reason, right? I at the time said that's fucking bullshit, and it didn't matter because everyone was doing the same thing that you're doing. Look around, crime is happening everywhere, right? Except Walgreens now openly states a year after the fact, oh yeah, I guess the CFO came out and said, the chief financial officer said that maybe we cried too much last year over theft. So the question at this point is, why did they do that? I know why they did that. Do you have an idea of why they said crime was the reason why they were closing their shops?
So look, you're taking Walgreens as one example, and there's a lot of different companies that
But if I'm
react
taking
in different ways, and there are a number of factors. So if Walgreens admits that they overstated the crime, there was a real reason why they closed their shops. I agree. So in that case, one of the other factors was probably larger, right?
Yeah. So what is the reason?
The point you make about
so
real
what do you
estate-
think it was?
The point you make about real estate is actually a perfectly good point.
So you think it was
and that is
Amazon?
also one of the factors.
Okay, so you think it was like same-day delivery, Amazon, e-commerce
Well, that's
dominating?
complicated too because that's a contributing factor. But COVID made a giant difference because people were not actually physically going into the
Fair,
stores.
true.
Yeah,
So
Walgreens
that's
is a
just, so you
dismissible
recognize
anecdote.
all of that. Okay, so if even one of these executives that was leading the fucking charge openly admits that they were lying a year prior, and the National Retailers Association that puts out those numbers on shrink is openly admitting that the increase in shrink is like actually perfectly in line with the increase in retail shopping and it's totally normal, then you as a smart person values empirical evidence over personal anecdotes should in that situation do what?
So Haas, look, if you want, next time I'll come with a book of statistics for you. But are you saying that in Portland, that the good progressives in Portland were full of shit and they panicked?
I love how it's on the screen during this.
And got tougher on crime because it was just all a mirage and they bought into the mirage. No, Haas, you see the crime, you see the numbers going up, select cities. See, it's sometimes affecting some retailers, but not other retailers.
It's like major article
and
after
so
major
it is
article.
A confluence of factors. But if you think that actual crime,
Look, I'll come back and I'll bring real facts, not just anecdotes. I do have to talk about the machete wielding person who won't stop screaming the N word. And that could be in your neighborhood.
Crime, put them in goddamn jail.
So fuck bail reform.
Okay. I don't know what to tell you because, like, you can come back with more statistics, which I think if you are a media person with a profound amount of influence, 5 billion views a month, like you said, or 5 billion views a year.
Wow.
Okay. You should probably have those.
He's going hard.
Those statistics should have been guiding
This is
your
harder than I thought it would be. Holy shit.
There was no crime.
I'm not saying that
situation wasn't out of control.
Well,
I'm not
Thanksgiving
saying
is
that
going to be
there's no
awkward
crime.
this
I've
year.
never said that there is no
Okay,
crime.
but that it was overhyped.
Crime
and
is
they threw out their progressive legislators.
Crime is a
because they were wrong.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that because in San Francisco, Chesapeake was recalled, right?
Right.
Because he's like woke George Soros back DA, and yet it's not like they got a handle on crime after that.
Because it's about the laws. It's not about one individual. So that's why I'm focusing on too many misdemeanors that should be felonies, and we got to put a cap on no cash bail. I'm giving you very specific, reasonable amendments of what we need to do to have a fair prison system and a fair criminal justice system that does not over-imprison people and that does not under-imprison people, so that you protect everyone. And
There's
have
no. Come on, you can't say that there's a problem with under-imprisoning people in America, right?
Well, these days, unfortunately, in some cities there are because of these laws that we
in
passed.
some cities. What cities? Point to a single city where there's an under
1% of the population is in jail.
Imprisonment issue
For the last 3 to 5 years?
Yes. Not enough jail cells.
Seattle, San Francisco.
There's overcrowding in prisons in the U.S.
San Francisco
right now.
or in the California in its entirety.
It's the biggest carceral state in
San
human history.
Francisco is like, what do you point to with San Francisco's under policing? Like the classic
yeah, not just globally,
grand larceny
ever.
Restrictions have been limited, right? So why did it happen in the last year or so?
5% of the world's population, 25% of the world's prisoners
almost?
are in the
They
U.S.
started watching the local news and going, "Oh, we can do this, and there's no consequences. Let's just all go steal shit,
Okay.
because nobody's getting arrested."
Okay, got it. But we already established that retail theft has not actually increased
4%.
according to the
All right,
retail
my apologies. Population demographics
association.
have changed since
So
that stat
where
was
is that
originally
happening?
presented.
That is outside of the bounds of reason.
So look, you're coming at all right, Huss, you win. And next time I will come with credible stats about crime, because you're obsessed with proving that our eyes are lying to us and that the stats are perfectly lovely. There's no extra crime. There's no extra retail
this is really
theft.
important. This is really important.
We're all making it up.
This is the same
conversation.
Cenk, this is the same conversation that I had in some respects with Andrew Tate, right? No, I'm serious. Anecdotes have a tendency to misguide us, because, of course, when you see something happening right in front of your eyes, you have a tendency to think this is happening infinitely more frequently, which is why we rely on empirical evidence.
I hope he
right?
grows from this.
That is
Hey there from
They're
Hasan
letting
Chat. Hey, what's going
people
on?
go. That's a fact. That's a
Okay,
fact.
but one part of that-
The lady has a machete. She's back on the
Oh my
corner
God,
48
anecdotes.
hours.
I understand
You're denying
that.
Single
people's
examples.
reality, and you're driving them crazy.
The reality
No.
that you're
Making them go,
propagating.
I'm not going to vote for that person or anyone
Okay,
associated
I'm
with
sorry.
that guy.
No, it's because this shit is fucking. It sells. It's easy. That's why Cops is such a popular show. Would you? Yeah, you see it. It's scary as fuck. Everyone will react in that way. If you see people burning buildings, lighting them on fire, targets on fire, people looting. That's why the media was showing that shit. The media was not concentrating on the fact that what those stats show: 93% of all Black Lives Matter protests were peaceful. The overwhelming vast majority of them were peaceful, were non-violent. There was not looting, smash. But of course, shiny objects. Fucking look at it. Look at this shit. Look at me dangle the keys before your eyes. Whoa, shit. Fires. Look at this. Jokeification. Chaos reigns. We have to do something. Give the police everything. Everything. Defund. No, that'll be anarchy. Like, that's the reason this shit fucking works. It works so well. If you talk about scary stories, no one's on the other side of that. No one's on team poop smear. No one's on team machete N-word anecdote, whatever that one was. But no one's on the other side of that shit. No one's like, yeah, no, I think more people with machetes should threaten old women. I think more people should get punched in the face on the street. I don't know. I believe in wild shit. No one's saying that. But they're saying that if you look at the majority of the stats on this, what is actually taking place? What is causing the crime? What is causing all of this? The supermarkets, they have a financial incentive to say, well, yes, criminals are overwhelmingly destroying everything right now. That's why this is happening. That's why. This is the reason why. And then right now he's showing you case after case after case. It's like, hey, by the way, these are misrepresented. This is not actually the full story. It's like, well, yeah, but did you hear about the poop man? The poop man cometh. Oh, poop is coming. Holy shit.
You saying the prosecutors haven't changed anything about cash bail?
Do you think-
they haven't changed anything about misdemeanors versus felonies?
Do you think-
and that it's just magically
Do
happening?
you think prosecutors are just like, we love that fucking... Do you think that in the United States of America, under this criminal justice system, okay, do you think that prosecutors are going, we love crime, let's fucking
not
let
what it's
these people
about.
go? So
No.
what is it about then?
So when a law changes and a prosecutor says, hey, brother, this used to be a felony, but now it's a misdemeanor. Now I got nowhere to plead. So I plead him out to nothing. And he's walking because I can't try all these cases. I can only try about 2% of these cases.
Okay.
So I have to do pleas. I have to do pleas.
Clean up
So
your
when you
room.
call something a misdemeanor, I'm gonna
DJ
let that
Dub D,
dude
thank
walk
you. Since
9
Cenk is
out of
doing
10
anecdotes,
times,
Swish
okay?
Oswood, show the
But
Fox
all I'm
News Seattle
saying,
video
Haas,
citizens
is
clowning on them
a
about
slight
fear-mongering on
change
crime.
where we go,
Yeah.
those crimes
True.
should not be misdemeanors. They should be felonies. And we
Okay.
go one by one, and I bet you we get overwhelming agreement, right? And the other slight changes, hey, somebody commits a crime once, don't make them do a cash bail. That's not fair to poor people, middle class people, etc. But somebody does, in my opinion, 2, you can say 8, whatever the number is, and we could argue over the number. But if they do 2 crimes back to back, no, then
Okay.
you've got to stay in jail, and you've got to pay bail. That's it.
Okay. I don't agree with your solutions because
This was so bad for Cenk,
the issue,
by the way.
the problem here is that, and the reason why I went back to retail theft is because it's the one that like everyone fucking constantly talks about, is that when you're talking about like violently threatening someone with a fucking weapon, okay, that's
Yeah,
not a
plead to nothing.
misdemeanor. Like,
In a lot of places, it is.
no, it's not. Okay, in Los Angeles, is it a okay? Threatening assault with a deadly weapon is a misdemeanor in Los Angeles.
No, first of all, let's look it up. If
It's
you
a
want,
felony.
we could
It's a felony.
No, dude, you just took the most extreme example.
What do you
You're
mean?
like,
The example that you gave.
misdemeanor.
That's
Wait, no, I did not use attempted murder. I used the anecdote that you brought up. You said making criminal threats or a
my
threatening
God.
to assault someone with a deadly weapon is lowered to a misdemeanor. It's your example. I didn't bring that up. You brought it up, and I'm fact checking it.
I don't know why that machete lady was let out. Okay, so I wasn't there in her court trial.
Why are you
But in
invoking
terms
it?
of tons of sexual assault here, petty. I just looked up like common misdemeanors, right? And this doesn't. We can get it. Like we should do a real
Can I
analysis
say
of
something?
it. But some forms of assault and
Okay.
DUIs, on and on and on.
No. I love that. We will get into that in a second. This is very important, and it deserves self-examination. This is an issue that happened in the real world in your life. This is something that you have used in your commentary. Should you, in your opinion, at least do the due diligence and have checked to see if it was a misdemeanor or a felony when it's an example that you've used before last time you were here? Since between last time you were here and now, do you think that you should have
2 weeks ago?
Oh, okay. You were then you were talking about a
I'm going
separate
to read you
issue.
misdemeanors in California: assault, battery, indecent exposure, shoplifting, domestic battery, trespassing.
Okay, who's on the other side of this? I don't get it. Who are you debating? Fucking straw, Hasan? Like no one is like, oh, well, yeah, those things are amazing and based, actually. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. Yeah. No, I'm really into the whole punching people on the street shit.
So I'm going to call the cops, and he starts
Strawsan.
to sexually pleasure himself in front of her window, and he says, "Go ahead, call the cops. They won't show up." Which is partly your point, Haas. But when they do show up, they go,
Anecdotes.
"What do you want me to do?"
Anecdotes.
They're going to let him go. I'm going to bring him in.
An anecdote of a shitty thing that's happened. No one's on the other side of
into
this.
their backyard and just starts hanging out and pleasuring himself and doing whatever the hell. And so
wait.
you laugh at trespassing. Ha ha, it's so funny.
I am
right?
laughing at that
No, I'm
because-
going to put that sumbitch away.
Okay, listen. First, didn't a homeless person masturbate in front of you? Yes, they have. Yes, I had a serial masturbator here as well. So
Yeah, they're all over LA because we don't put them away. But they actually, by the way, those guys should be institutionalized. They shouldn't go to prison. They should go to a mental health facility that is properly funded, that takes care of them. But what we shouldn't
I'm glad
do,
we at least agree on that.
yeah, but what we shouldn't do is go, whatever, it's not a problem. Just jerk off all over LA, and kids will see it. Maybe you'll get it on Gram.
It's been a while since I've been to LA. I've been there a couple times, so in my opinion, not somewhere I'd want to live because it's too sprawled out. You got to drive everywhere, but gorgeous city, amazing people, incredible food, all that kind of shit. Not once did I see the wankers. There wasn't a fucking just fucking apocalypse of wanking going on every fucking 2 seconds. Just coomers spilling all over the place, and you're just like, holy shit, you can't even walk on the street anymore because all the fucking cum. Look at the city. It's gone to shit. Why won't they lock up the fucking cum dumpsters? This fucking shit.
Imaginary issues. I'm simply stating
Kiwi Bird,
that
37. Thank you very much for the prime.
some of
Appreciate
these
you.
issues are demonstrably and nefariously weaponized and propagandized by mainstream media, specifically local news outlets, when the reality is very different and empirical evidence shows that the reality is very different. As a matter of fact, in many instances, the very same authorities that we're getting these numbers from openly admit that these are not as severe as the media presents.
By the way,
it.
no, the crime problem is way worse because
but-
the cops aren't even bringing them in. So
but-
there's all
but-
this crime
but-
that's not even being reported.
Okay, please, hold on. You asked me what my perspective is, and I'm telling you what my perspective is. You and I have already, going through this conversation, you've already admitted one of the major problems is that the police aren't doing their fucking jobs, right? You already recognize that. You also recognize that they lie all the time. Do you think that the 86% of police which voted for Donald Trump, right, Do you think that those guys have a genuine reason in pushing more reactionary politicians into office, specifically because they agree with them? And one aspect of that is to simply refuse to do your job beyond what blue flu is supposed to be, in an effort to get people to feel exactly in the same way that you do, because it's so easy to get people very upset in this circumstance when the media is also aligning with their interests as well and constantly pumping people full of misinformation, as I've shown you, that all ends up moving Americans, which already have a reactionary slant to begin with when it comes to crime and punishment, in that direction that we need more enforcement.
Yeah, it feels like an
not
intervention.
Any of the solutions that will solve some of the underlying problems in which crime manifests.
So, Haas, I didn't admit that. I came in saying that. I've always said that cops are a huge part of the problem. I've said that super clearly 800 times. So what I'm saying is that is a giant factor, and another significant factor.
Oh, this was a book
is
promotion.
The of the laws that I have talked about.
Yeah.
So
that
now
ship has sailed.
I'm asking you in return.
Sales have actually gone down.
And I don't know if you were saying no. The other stuff is not. It sounds like you're saying the other stuff's not even a factor.
Oh, by the way,
only the cops.
Crime has decreased in Los Angeles. That's the other.
You see, the problem with that stat is that nobody's getting arrested.
But has public wanking?
You might have a stat go down. That's because the cops aren't doing their job, as your point.
Cherry, great stuff. Thank you very much for the tier 1. Appreciate you.
So what do you do?
Wait.
If
we're letting everyone go, that's not crime decreasing, because that's still if someone is being detained and arrested, even if they let them go, that's still factoring into crime increasing.
No, tons of times, like the spear guy, they go, no, the machete lady,
crime
actually took a person.
Machete lady, spear guy, poop man.
I'm not going to arrest him. I'm not going to arrest him.
That's
crime.
I'm not joking. That's what he brought to the debate. Poop man, spear guy, and machete lady. Oh, sorry, am I getting them mixed up? Fucking hell. Can't even remember all the anecdotes. There's so many of them right now.
By George Soros. The problem is, and I think you and I agree on this,
machete woman. Thank you.
the police not doing their jobs.
No, but Haas, first of all, I never said woke pervert Soros. That's a Republican talk.
I know. Well, well, you do align a lot with Republicans on
No,
this issue.
that's a ridiculous. Look, I just explained it. I don't know how I could be any clearer. If you think it's a Republican to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't let guys commit 2,000 crimes in a row, well, then you're ceding ground of sanity to Republicans.
I don't think a single person.
See
I don't
that
think a single
ground
person
at
says
all.
that. Does anyone?
So Haas,
I've
what
never met a
do you
person
want
that says
to do
that.
with the guy masturbating in the street right now? We haven't built the great facilities that you and I want to build.
I already told you.
What do you do with it?
The guy masturbating on the streets needs to have.
So what? You're pro wank?
Social workers.
What are you saying?
And police officers, which currently exist, come to the scene.
I never thought I'd see the day where fucking Hasan is defending the fucking wank epidemic of LA. You know, the streets are lined with cum, and this guy is just sitting back, fucking defending this.
I agree. That is not something that I disagree with you on at all. I am not if crime is happening, we shouldn't stop it from happening. That is the entire point of why there is a fucking police force. No one says that shouldn't happen. There is not a single, I've never met. I know abolitionists, okay? I love them. Some of them I disagree with. I think that we are ultimately unified in the short term on similar goals overall, okay? They're leading the charge of criminal justice reform. Overall, I've never met someone who goes, if someone is jerking off in your vicinity, you have to let them go. I've never met. Maybe they exist.
Good. So
maybe they exist, but they are far from politically important.
Then let's make it broader. Okay, cash bail. You say infinite no cash bail, or is there a moment where you would say they've committed too many crimes, they're gonna have to get bail?
No, I think that this literally has to be.
Why not eliminate the system all entirely?
Issue.
It disproportionately affects the poor.
That. If someone is a routine offender,
rich people don't have to worry about it. Then what? It is a war on the poor. Just by definition.
They haven't yet, but okay.
No, that's not true. They are actually doing that.
It depends on
they are actually.
Just like think of the fundamental principle of that. Okay, so here's a system, a two-tiered system of justice. If you can afford it, you don't have to wait in a jail cell while you await your day and your trial to find out whether or not you're guilty or not. You're not actually found guilty by a jury of your peers or by a judge, anything yet. But you have to spend that time in jail if you don't have the money. That's the idea of it. Right? I mean, if you can afford it, you don't have to do that. But there are people who can't afford it and then just die waiting. They could be innocent. They're disproportionately black too. They just die while they wait because the prison conditions are so abhorrent, because there's too many prisoners in such a small space. They're cramming them into small fucking cells and treating them like fucking animals. Yeah, eliminate that. Rikers is a death machine.
They're not being released tomorrow after doing a pedophilia fuck crime, okay? These are people who are not violent criminals.
What is happening?
These are people who have already served more than half of their sentences
none of them are violent criminals.
That are still...
There's no way that's true and you know it.
Oh my God. I'm going to lose
None of them are violent criminals. There's no... Haas, they're all just angels that just walk into a prison.
That's not... Wait,
what
are we talking about?
But no one's defending...
It's really 75,000 of them.
No, we haven't yet. We have not
that's
yet.
the plan.
No one's on the other side of that.
The plan is not to immediately release 75,000 prisoners like fucking Russia
in the word immediate.
Like, genuinely, no one's on the other side of this. No. Like, honestly, rapists are horrifying. Fuck the rapists. The problem now is a lot of them get away with what they do. That's a problem under the current system, even as the police budgets increase in the process.
Yeah, they're releasing it so they could fucking join Wagner. You know what I mean? That's not what's going on. Here's what is actually happening. Do you want to know what is actually happening?
This is a book promotion, by the way.
Keep going.
Okay. What's going on in the state of California with the 75,000 prisoner release situation is that they are still, of course, going through the exact same processes where they go and sit in front of a panel of people that analyze whether or not they have actually reformed. Okay, so that same panel, which I don't think you think that panel is like actually, pussies or woke DAs, right? Like those are the same exact people that stop most people from leaving prison.
Change something. If it was the same exact procedure, it would be the same exact procedure.
Okay. Yes, the procedure is accelerating the process that most people go through, right? Normally, you commit a crime and you're in prison, let's say, for 15 years. Now, with this new structure, 76,000 inmates that are allowed to leave prison, some of which does include violent felonies as well, as long as they have served out half of their sentence or more than half of their sentence, and they have demonstrated good behavior throughout the entire process. This is not. Do you feel?
What changed?
Do you feel like
what changed?
What do you mean what changed?
So what is the thing where we're going to let 76,000 people...
I just explained it to you.
No, but you're saying it's the same exact process. Well, that can't be true.
No.
They passed the law that's going to make it different.
Yes.
What changed?
Yes, the process is accelerating people who have already done half of their prison sentence.
Right, and I would say to you...
that they should be in prison for double the time?
No, I would say to you that I use judgment. I don't just go, let them out, or keep them all in.
Wait,
right? I go, what's the crime? What's the crime? It's a minor crime. You did it 20 years ago. You served a long sentence. You're free to go. It's a major crime. No, I don't agree. No way. Okay, go back into prison.
At no point did I say that any part of the panel of judges that allow you to cut your sentence in half as long as you've demonstrated good behavior has changed something fundamentally that allows them to turn the other cheek on violent criminals.
Spend the money. Why do you think there's a new situation? They're not saying, oh, you know what? Let's just do everything the same, except for this giant law that we passed where the governor is telling you, let 76,000 people out.
The reason why they are able to do such a thing is because California has a horrific carceral state that is over-policed and over-criminalized for far too long. That's why our prison population
He's got a fourth anecdote cooking. You can tell.
People that you and I both agree are in prison that don't need to be in prison any longer. Do we agree with that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Scat bus or something.
That's great. This program is supposed to find those people and allow them to be released early. That's it. It's not fucking, oh, you did a rape and then now tomorrow you can get you can be free. That's not how that works.
Anything like that. I'm not a Republican. I don't make extreme claims like that.
No.
I'm trying
This
to
whole
find
thing
a
has been extreme
reasonable
claims.
place where we have balance and justice for both people who are wrongly imprisoned and general society. And Haas started this conversation with there are two potential icebergs for progressives in not winning elections. And one of them, I said, was progressives going too extreme. And I think that you've accidentally proven my point. Because if a normal California voter watched this debate, there's no way in the world they're going to vote for you. And
That's really
when in reality, 90%...
Didn't you get 5% of the vote?
Hold on. When in reality, 90%
didn't he get 5%? Am I wrong? Am I wrong on that? He got 5% of the vote, didn't he?
Right?
Cenk,
but the minute you say to them, oh no, you're all imagining it. There's no extra crime. It's all the shop's fault, and it's all the cops' fault. And there's no crime, and we shouldn't fix anything. There's no problem. There's no problem.
I never said that.
That's what they're hearing, Haas, and they will never vote for you if you say that.
Okay.
You think that if they watch this debate, now I don't know your audience, and maybe your audience thinks,
he lost to two Republicans in a Biden district.
Oh my God. Yeah, that stat about Walgreens. Yeah, he's got him. But if you think a general voter watches this and thinks that they would vote for you, you're totally detached from reality. The minute they hear you talking about this stuff, they're like,
yeah, again, these are more anecdotes.
I don't care if they're a lunatic Republican. I'm going to vote for them.
In this imaginary scenario, you're wrong.
Such a compelling argument that Rick Caruso is now the mayor and we did concentration camps for homeless people. You are correct. That's precisely what happened.
Rick Caruso almost won when he's basically a Republican.
Exactly, and he didn't. So there you go. So that's number one. Number two,
not a great example.
The crime rate.
I mean, normally a Democrat wins by like 30, 40 points in L.A.
It's really
Caruso
funny.
Almost won.
It's really funny that you say that because he did have to run as a Democrat. So clearly that matters. Okay, got it. So number one, that is also incorrect. The crime panic narrative did not work. And, of course, the only people who own the crime panic narrative are always going to be Republicans regardless. So all you do in that situation is concede the field to Republicans instead of walking them step by step through the realities on the fucking ground. I know that it is difficult to fight anecdotes with empirical evidence, but this is not something I'm going to do specifically because I think I can win more people over to my side, especially when the crime panic narrative has not been successful. It has not.
You didn't see the progressive legislators get their ass thrown out in Portland and Seattle? You didn't see Jason Boudin get his ass thrown out of office?
Because they were pro-wank.
So you don't see any of this.
No, I do.
See that,
I do see that.
You didn't see Ilhan Omar almost lose a primary in like the bluest district in the country?
It's almost like moneyed interests are always, just like you say all the time, going to have a specific narrative that they latch onto, that they hammer over and over again, and then actually implement recall. I talk about
the money narrative all the time, and the money issue and the media issue. So those are things that are true. But if you ignore every problem and go, no, it's imaginary, it's the money, it's the media, well, you're going to lose people. And we're losing people. We're losing people because you're pretending crime doesn't exist when it absolutely exists.
I never said crime. I never said
2,000 times over. There's crime, and they get right back out on the street.
I never said crime doesn't exist, Cenk.
No, I hear you. That's.
I don't know why. I'm trying to be.
I'm trying to be. Go up.
I'm trying to be.
Not a bigger problem than it was before. You are saying that
because crime hasn't gone up.
They're not arresting them, Haas. They're not arresting them. So there's a rampant crime, and they won't arrest them, which is partly because the cops won't do their job, and partly because when they arrest them, they the fuck out.
It's entire. If they were arresting them and then they were getting the fuck out immediately, then crime would literally be higher overall in unimagiable.
Not arresting them.
Okay, then fucking deal with the police. Then it's not the woke DAs.
No, because in the beginning when they did arrest them, they did get okay. Look, guy, you know what, Haas?
What
so
you're
this has swallowed up the entire conversation. But next time, I will come with book and verse with like incredibly specific stats.
These are your
and
arguments.
Non-stats
That'd be great.
Everything else in the world.
It would have been
to show you goddamn reality.
He's literally
that
pulling up
everyone else on Earth sees
stuff from
that
chat
no one agrees
that
with
contradicts you.
That would be.
No one agrees with you.
It doesn't. No. You can't use polling
I can't.
or
I
people.
want to win elections.
generalization.
You want to go with the 2% instead
No.
of the 98%?
If we're having a conversation, a back and forth about what is objectively the reality of what is happening, then you can't use anecdotes and then leap over to the other side and go, well, this doesn't poll well, as a matter of fact. So obviously we should secede on this narrative.
There is no extra crime. You're saying I saw the stats on the appeal, and I love the appeal, but okay.
Crime.
I saw like 2.5 articles about it, so I'm going to pretend that there's no extra crime.
That's what do you mean 2.5?
So
First
you're not
of all,
pretending. To be fair to you, you're saying there is no extra crime.
I'm saying that crime increases and decreases. And right now, we are still at a historic low in comparison
to the 1970s, Haas.
No, not
Don't go back to the 1970s. Crime was higher in 2020, higher in 21, higher now. So yeah, I've got stats, but I didn't know we were going to do a giant crime debate. I would have brought my goddamn stats.
I'm not simply saying.
Definitely gone up.
I'm not saying specifically in comparison to the 1970s. Okay. However,
crime has gone up since 2020.
Since COVID?
Oh, well, now we're picking dates.
Why has
Finally,
crime gone up
thank
since
God.
COVID? Not only economic
Why did it go
turmoil,
up
but
in
also
certain
because
certain categories? By the way, it didn't go up
during COVID.
universally
So
across
of
all
course, if you
categories.
compare it to COVID versus
Domestic
post-COVID,
violence,
it's gonna go up.
shootings,
Pre-COVID,
and then it went back
post-COVID,
down.
Crime has gone up.
Crime in certain areas, certain kinds of crime, like specifically murder, for example, in Los Angeles, has gone up. Every other type of crime has either remained stable or lowered.
No.
What do you mean no?
So crime has gone up generally, and specific kinds of crime have gone
The
up.
only kind of crime that has gone up in Los Angeles, California, is murder. That's it.
So you're cherry picking one city and overall crime stats.
It's the
have
city
gone
that I
up since 2020. You acknowledge that. Have overall crime stats gone
You want me
up
to
or
expand?
down since
You want me to
2020?
expand on the data? I'm giving you the expansion of the data, and then you say, "Well, that data doesn't favor my position, so I don't believe in it." You're just fucking cherry picking one data point. No, every other type of crime has gone down in comparison to murder.
In LA, you're saying.
In Los Angeles,
Only
yes.
in LA. Okay.
Well,
So
that's
now
what we're
has-
talking.
no,
We live in LA.
Wait a minute. So
Isn't that where all these
has
attacks
crime
happen?
gone up or down nationwide since 2020? I'm asking you a simple question.
Depends on what kind of crime you're talking about and where you're talking about. Of course.
Yes, it's gone up. Yes.
Certain areas, crime has gone up. Has it gone up to unimaginable degree that you're
I didn't
talking
say
about?
unimaginable.
No.
I didn't say unimaginable. I said crime has gone up. People are super worried about it. And I am trying to find, in a rational way,
Okay, can
what
I
is
ask you a
causing
question?
the crime to go up. And
We
and
talk about
deal
San
with that
Francisco
without going extreme.
Okay, we talk about San Francisco, we talk about Seattle, we
Oh
talk
my
about
God,
all
that
these like
dog is so
blue
cute.
states, right? Do you think crime has gone up in red states? And if crime has gone up in red states, do you think that red states engaged in defund the police narratives? Do you think red states also had a similar structural problem with like woke DAs and whatnot?
I constantly think that there are always a number of factors and that there are different prioritization of those factors. For example,
So why has
when you
crime
talk
gone
about
up in
crime-
South Carolina?
When you talk about crime increasing since 2020, I just wanted an acknowledgement, first of all. I don't know if you gave me half an acknowledgement there. So then when you get into why, there are a number of factors. He's
teaching you. He's explaining it went up in specific categories and then went back down.
Those numbers have
The
gone
exception
up.
being murder.
And then there's the issues, but then there's also the issue of COVID, and the isolation that COVID created has also contributed to crime. Right?
Absolutely. Good.
And
All
so,
right.
and that is why some of them have gone up in red states as well as blue states. But then you have to look at, and we can get in, if we're going to do like a 2-hour debate on crime, yes, then we can parse, hey, which crime went up in Portland, which crime went down in Portland, which crime went up in Alabama, which crime went down in Alabama, right? But overall, there is a trend that crime has gone up. And there's also a trend that they're doing less arrests, and hence the crime stats are actually not nearly they're not showing the depth of the problem that everyone is actually feeling in their lives.
Would you say that when we talk about crime, would you say that like as far as macro trends goes, do you think that like 2017 till now is like a reasonable assessment, or do you think that that's too far back in time?
The numbers that I've seen and that I don't have the exact like 21.7% off the top of my head, but
21 point.
No. I just gave that as a random number. We're from 2020 on. Crime has gone up from 2020.
So
on.
yes, crime has gone up since 2020. I would never argue with that, especially because, as you and I both agree, crime was at an all-time low in 2020 due to other factors. The most important one being COVID. It wasn't like woke DAs or anything.
Then let me rephrase. It's gone up since 2019.
Okay, you are correct. Crime has gone up nationally. If you look at macro trends since 2019, what do you think? How this includes all kinds of crime, by the way. So, like when you have obviously murder, for example, like I admitted and conceded, or rather, not even conceded. I just something is just the truth. That factors into overall crime as well. So, what percentage do you think crime has gone up by since 2020?
Brother, we did this story.
Okay, well, it's 3%. If I were to tell you that crime has gone down since 2017, what would you say to that? Would you say that?
I wouldn't be overly surprised. Crime has gone way down over the years 1970s, 1990s.
That's not what I'm
You've
talking
been
about.
saying
That's not
the
what I'm talking
exact
about.
opposite this entire
2017
time.
is not the 70s.
So I got you.
If I were to tell you that
Oh
crime
my
has gone
God.
down since crime
Cenk.
is still down since 2017, what
This
would you
is a
say to that?
disaster.
I
This
wish
is
I
a
had bigger
fucking
report.
disaster.
What I want to do is I want to dive.
You said like
into-
10 times. Oh, I wish I had
why
the
don't you
stats
answer my
before me.
question?
Hold on.
He's got the
I wanna
stats in
dive
front of
into
you.
What changed and when did it change? So were the laws changed in 2017? Were they changed in 2020? What laws were changed? How did that affect this? And Haas, maybe we'll look into it and you find out, no, not a lot of laws were changed. You know, it looked like there was a lot of felonies that were brought down to misdemeanors, but that's a little bit misleading, etc. So I'm with whatever reporting abilities we have, I will try to dive into it and get you specific answers. These are not black and white issues. There are contributing factors like COVID, like cops not doing their jobs, but yes, also changing some of the laws so that it got too permissive. Okay.
So the reason, I think you and I both agree, the reason why I said 2017 is because crime has still down since 2017 by 4%. If you
That's
look
a
at
lot.
crime being up since 2019, it's 1%. Do you feel like that that corresponds to, one, the information that you brought up? Actually, wait, hold on. Here it is. It's a 1% increase from 2018 and a 28% increase from 2019, right? 28% increase is the number that you used. 2019, okay? So
that seems devastating.
and yet that still is,
28%
and yet that
increase.
still is a decline, a 6% decline since 2017.
Double
So-
what you said was a
crime
lot.
went down massively between 2017 and 2019.
Yes.
Then after 2019, when I think we might have changed some of the laws, crime went up. And
Okay, because the laws changed.
28.78%, which is a massive increase.
Okay. So. Aya, no. Oh shit! She's just like fucking ripping. Aya, no. I have toys right here. Stop eating the cords, you fucking asshole. Christ. Since in that entire process. Oh, sorry. In this entire process, I said something wrong here. U.S. crime statistics for 2018 was a 6-point decline from 2017. It was dropping, and it has increased from 2021 to 2020. 2021, there was a 6-point increase from 2020. The 28% is an increase between 2019 to 2020.
Yep.
Okay, that sharp increase is due to COVID.
So COVID is
An
huge
insane,
factor.
yes, of course.
But it
COVID.
might also be those things that I mentioned.
What?
So the tweaking of some of the laws around misdemeanors and cash bail. So look, us, we go on forever about this. I think people are super clear about our positions, but we are not absolutely clear
that you have no idea what
exactly
you're talking about. Yes, I'm familiar with your position. You have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, and you want to fearmonger. That's it. You want to get people scared. Of course, people are going to be scared when you talk to them about fucking machete lady and the serial poopist and cum wankers fucking lining the streets of LA. And like, yeah, that sounds horrifying. No one wants to deal with that. But like, when it comes down to it, like, okay, so what are the actual statistics, backing up your claims and data, not just the anecdotes of these fucking horrifying human beings? It's like, oh, well, I mean, if crime went down, that wouldn't surprise me. It's like, well, that calls into question your entire premise. Then it's not that they're just not locking them up and the criminals get away with whatever they do, and there's this rampant fucking serial jerk-off fest.
Solve the problem.
I need to clarify something here, though. Once again, okay, crime per capita population has increased since 2018, when it was at 4.93 to 6.8. Okay, that's a dip. I mean, that's an increase certainly, but it's not the increase that you're claiming it is. That's number one. And number two, this massive jump that you're talking about from 2019 happened due to COVID.
Haas, you just both said it was minor and massive. So yes, in 2019 it was massive.
Because the types of crimes that are increasing, is not the types of crimes that you're using on television, the types of crimes that you see on TV. And a major part of the issue.
It's true. Everybody, I have to as well head out because I have been pushing off for the last. I thought this was going to only be like an hour-long debate. It's been going on for like almost 2 hours straight. It's been probably the worst thing I think that could have possibly happened to Cenk. This is a book promotion, by the way. I wonder how that's going to affect that. Anyways, I got to sign off. I'll send you all to Hasan. Give him lots of love. That this was incredible. I'm so fucking proud of that dude. He just fucking held Cenk to account on all his shitty takes one after the other and did it fucking spectacularly. That's I thought the Andrew Tate debate was the best Hasan debate I'd ever seen. This one is fucking just next level. Calm, collected, awesome. Wow. That's all I'll say.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This show is produced by amazing people like you, and if you want to help us out, please consider donating over at patreon.com/theserfs. The show is made possible thanks to Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Cady, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Lamidia Panza, Matthew Scarborough, Multimondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Pappy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Sir Nickus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Demo, Tech Tink, Trevbot EXE, Words Greenwood, and not to mention all of the amazing and fabulous people you now see before you.